Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mind High podcast. This is Z. I hope everyone's doing well. First of all, if you go to our YouTube page for Mind High podcast, we have uploaded 2 new videos. The first, Does True Happiness Exist? And another, The Expanding Universe. Check those videos out, and if you like them, subscribe to the channel, because this is only just the beginning. We have a bunch more videos just like that coming shortly. Anyway, today we have a very special guest, Erman Abtahi, a political social media strategist and co-founder at the FDC, joining us to have a very fascinating conversation about the current political climate, liberal democracy, meditation, and a bunch of other stuff. So let's jump right in. I just became a better listener, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess we can kind of go into like the art of conversation, how important that is, just not in just for one-on-one or the podcast, but as a country too, right? Because there are many important conversations that are happening right now, and then there's different sides and views to it. But we like different sides when they're talking. Like to your point, are we really listening to our opposite side? Are we giving it any? Going to a deeper dive into what they're saying and trying to then, put a proper rebuttal and response to it. Because I feel like it's just like two heads are just colliding and, we're not really seeing eye to eye anymore.
Yeah, I don't think we are listening. I mean, like Sam Harris says, can you listen to the other side and honestly, give a whole summary of what that other person is saying? That's when you really understand the other side. And you're right, I don't think most people are willing to really listen. They're always just thinking about how they're going to attack the other person's argument. Yeah,
you're a Trump supporter. Automatically, you're going to get judged. Or, the right way would be to listen to what they have to say and, talk out your differences, right? Clash of ideas. Let the best ideas win. Right now, we're just shutting down ideas, it looks like.
I think the last election cycle, though, was very problematic because you said, you look at Trump supporters and you just judge them.
Right.
But, I mean, a lot of people, especially on the left, and I would agree with you, but a lot of people, and it's hard to convince them because I think they have a valid argument. And I think the valid argument is that, well, we didn't judge them. We didn't prejudge them. Mm-hmm. The thesis of the Trump campaign was that there are Mexicans crossing here.
Right.
And some of them are good people.
Right.
And only some are good. And that was the thesis. That was the opening argument of the Trump campaign. So for you to say, oh, well, Trump supporters are all this way, it's hard for then a liberal to be like, well, that was the headline.
Yeah.
That was and then the second thing was we must ban all Muslims from entering the country. So you put those two together.
Right. He did come out guns blazing, right, with this.
And no liberal thinks of themselves as prejudging. They say, no, I heard him. And I heard him loud and clear. And
what sucks is to your point, we all heard what he said, but then it's always sub meanings to his meaning. So his who are those people? His surrogates, because not every time he says anything or tweets anything, you can't take it for face value.
Right.
He's like some sort of like God, or if you will, or some sort of holy book that we need so many people to interpret his tweet. You can't read it straight. You can't read it for its face value. You need to.
The reason that's very problematic too in the political spheres is that these are people who are simultaneously arguing for the strict interpretations of what things actually are, right? They say, oh, if you want to, our Neil Gorsuch is a strict, by the letter of the law, he will judge.
By the book, yeah.
By the way, don't take our president seriously.
Yeah.
And it's it's hard for a liberal to navigate this information war that's occurring, because if you say, for example, well, there's what Trump said, for example, had no basis in fact. Again, no one's judging anyone in that when they say that. But if you say what the wiretapping claim there's no evidence for it or something like that,
right?
You're part of fake news. You're part of an organization of globalists,
right? Who
want to overthrow the sovereignty of the United States. To actually, if you get them talking honestly, they'll tell you because they want to install Jews into the highest levels of government so that we can bring a new era of I don't know. I don't know what the actual end game of the conservative conspiracy is, but
Right.
apparently they want globalists who are predominantly Jewish to take over the government so that they can globalize the world. And I guess I don't know.
Are they really trying to globalize it, or are they trying to be more nationalistic?
No, I'm not talking about the Trump people. I'm
Okay.
talking about the Trump conspiracy.
Okay, gotcha.
That's why the Clintons and the Obamas and like I said, even the sentiment that Obama wasn't wiretapping Trump is a part of the globalist conspiracy.
Right.
I don't know. I really don't know. I guess it's they were saying, Alex Jones used to say by 2012 there would be FEMA camps. By 2012 the world was going to end. By 2012, Alex Jones, all the conspiracy right-wing people, 2012, all through the whole Obama presidency.
Right.
And even History Channel, all the channels owned by News Corp were running, this is end times.
Yeah, they're always trying to
Discovery Channel, Armageddon. Look at this old Bible verse. It says Obama Bush.
Yeah.
And they put Obama and Bush together. Look at Nostradamus.
Yeah. There's definitely we're trying to ingrain fear into our societies and whatnot to give more power to the government, right? So because what we all want the most is security, right, from the government. We want to make sure that we are safe today, and not another country like Russia or China or North Korea is gonna invade us tomorrow. We want to make sure we're secure. So how much of security are we willing to give up to the government? By them always brainwashing us with these tactics, like you said, fear tactics. We are just pretty much giving them the keys to run it in a way that, to the level that it is right now, right? That's why you have Trump where he is and the success that he's had in becoming the president.
And what's really scary is now that was more of a right-wing thing of, more power to the government, before 9/11, and all those conspiracy theories and whatnot. Now it's the liberals saying, oh, crap, the Russians really did hack us. Oh, crap, there are world threats, and we really do need surveillance. In 2013, the left was against
surveillance.
Yeah. Now they're like, thank God we have the surveillance, so we know who was colluding against us in the Trump campaign. So that's where we are. Both sides kind of right now accept that
there should be some sort of
reality, a reality, and that it should be going on. And whether or not that's true, it's beyond my understanding. Because again, it was actually Romney during the 2012 campaign who was warning everyone Russia's trying to undermine us. And the left and Obama and everyone was like, ha ha ha, what are you?
Kind of ignored it.
Cold War, this guy's his mind is in the Cold War.
Yeah,
it's
that's
over.
a good point.
Blah blah blah. And lo and behold, Assad starts launching
Teaming
chemical
up.
weapons
Yeah.
in 2013, probably specifically to start a refugee campaign.
Right.
Because then we now know ended up funding and supporting right-wing anti-refugee populist movements all across the world. So that seems very like that was all planned.
Yeah, it is. It is scary seeing all that kind of come together up to this point.
He was straight bombing houses for no reason. People were wondering why. Why? Well, it creates refugees. If you flood the Eastern European nations, you play on their racism and you play on their fears, like you just said, and then you elect right-wing people.
And then Russia backs Assad too, right? So
Russia definitely backs Assad.
So
that's why
they help in the.
If you guys recall, Obama wanted to go in Syria full force, like we went into Iraq.
Yeah.
The left wing and the websites and everyone stopped him.
Yeah.
And because of that stopping of the invasion of Syria with American troops, we ended up funding these super right-wing rebels. And when that failed, you have the situation where now we elect Trump because everyone's saying, oh, he failed here, he failed here, he failed this, he failed that. But it's like, it wasn't just Obama. I mean, Obama wanted to go in with troops, and it was us, the left wing, and we stopped him. And then that inadvertently caused the success of the refugee campaign that Putin was putting in place. Yeah. Undermining our own election and the success of the Obama administration.
Because I think part of that has to do with, we've seen, the Iraq war was unwinnable, and then so many lives were lost for no reason, right?
But that's because the population looks at wars very classically.
Yeah.
The liberal democracy came forth as a revolution in war. We were no longer were people fighting wars for resources. The idea that we went into war for resources in Iraq was feudal. We don't live in a feudalistic society.
Yeah.
We live in a commercial society. We don't care if we own the oil. We care if we have friends
That own it.
who can trade with us. And actually, we don't even care that we own it or that we get a good deal on it. We actually know from research that if you democratize an area, prices will go down, free markets will proliferate. That's actually all true stuff. And I really believe all those evil people in the cabinet of the Bush administration, and I said quotations, no one can see that on microphone. I believe that while they were extraordinarily ignorant and misguided, I think we all grew up thinking democracy
Right.
was like a super cool thing, and like these people, especially conservatives, really believe that.
Yeah, that everyone wants it.
And that everybody
Everyone's
wants
dying.
it, and that they would just take to it.
Yeah.
A lot of people did, though. I mean, a lot of people in Iraq. I mean, there was that green zone, and there was KFCs, and people were experiencing. People were taking off their head
Wheels.
wraps,
Yeah.
and they were putting down statues. All that stuff did happen. There was some liberation, but of course, the insurgency immediately took that away.
Yeah, as soon as just within time, all that kind of went back to what it was. So
It went back to worse.
Yeah.
There was a lot of
ISIS,
refugees saying,
yeah.
"Oh, Saddam was horrible, but I could eat."
yeah,
Like
everything was stable, right? So
Saddam was horrible, but my children were alive.
Yeah,
Things.
we weren't getting bombed every day.
Do you think that religion has to play like a role in that? Because that's like the one factor we're not talking about in all this. We're talking from like a U.S. point of view.
Of course, religion definitely plays into it. I mean, it's kind of like that us versus them mentality too, right? Because I mean, from a Christian perspective, like you just see the way Islam is portrayed. I feel like the way the media portrays is like it's the evil. So it's kind of us versus them. Or we have to stop them, or we need to, liberate the world of Islam, if you will, too, right?
Yeah, some people see this whole battle, from like a religious perspective. It's not really like I feel like we're talking about it from a political point of view, but some people see this battle from like an entirely religious point of view.
I wonder how important that is, though, right? Because the leaders of the Islamic movement don't see it as religious, right? They're smart. They know they're in there for politics. They know they're in there for trade rights. They know they're in there for control of opium fields. They know they're in there to even deal with population growth and the policies of covering women and things like that. Those are all political. They understand that. It's the people, sure, they might think whatever they want to think.
Right.
But we never... It's good to look at history from the side of peasants, but when you're going through history and when you're in the present, you kind of want to know what the goals of, for example, the Taliban are. They are religious.
Yeah.
But I don't really believe they think, what would Allah do? I think they think, how can we secure our resources? They think just as economically as liberal democracies do, I really believe.
Like,
Right.
like you mean their food and stuff? Like what I'm gonna eat tomorrow? What money I have? Like
They're
stuff
good
like
with
that?
food because they especially specifically the Taliban, they are owning. It's actually interesting because this is not entirely true. There's different sects, obviously, of every group, because the Taliban actually came in 2001 and started wiping out the poppy fields of Afghanistan. I'm not sure if you guys were aware of that.
No.
90% of the
Yeah, I've heard that before.
90% of all heroin
Oh,
or
yeah, it
opium
comes from
will come from
Afghanistan. Yeah.
Afghanistan. So
it still does, right? Yeah.
no, actually it did. But what happened was in 2001, Taliban moves in and starts clearing out all these poppy fields, and so very randomly.
I thought they were using those fields for money as income too, right? So
I thought that too, but for whatever reason they stopped
okay.
in 2001, and that was very coincidentally the time that we went in and cleared out the Taliban
Yeah.
and got those poppy fields running again.
Yeah, yeah, because they was it on Joe Rogan or something like that? I think they were talking about how after U.S. went in, like those fields were the operations. I think I'm trying to recollect where I heard it. I don't know if you remember, Hasban. Like,
No, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah,
They start operating
I
again.
too. That
Yeah.
that they
That's
use that to
Vietnam
finance
as well.
their
Yeah.
activities.
Have you guys seen the movie American Gangster? Same story.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, that's the
Turtle.
one with Denzel
No.
Washington, right?
Denzel Washington.
Yeah, yeah,
right?
okay.
Yeah, the United States military was funneling heroin through the poppy fields of.
Well, they've been
Okay.
involved in
Vietnam.
drugs forever. That's basically a fact now. It's just we don't like to talk about it,
Acknowledge it.
but yeah, or we don't like just talk we don't talk about it in
But
mainstream
what was the
media.
crop
but
that made the United States its own nation? It was tobacco. I mean, this company
Yeah, the
has
plantation,
came
yeah.
up on drugs from the very beginning.
Beginning,
And
yeah.
Just because we legalize tobacco doesn't mean it's not a drug.
yeah, it
yeah,
is.
tobacco is
Especially
definitely
if you're a human being from the 1600s, the 1700s. Tobacco probably had profound impacts on your
Yeah.
consciousness at the time.
Yeah, because there wasn't that
I
many.
think it still does. I mean, like if I was to smoke tobacco, I would feel a little buzz. It's not like the best high in the world, but you still feel it.
But like if you hear the trip reports of people who would smoke hashish in the 17th century, I mean they're describing acid trips.
Oh, really?
I've never read any
Yeah,
of
I mean
those.
they're talking about breaking through, talking to God, blah blah blah. I mean,
Damn, really?
It's a theory that we get the word assassin from, you know, the Assassin's Creed story.
Yeah.
These were enlightened little groups of people who would get high on hash. I mean, the word assassin comes from hashash, like hashish, hashashin.
It's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so these people were getting high, getting in touch with their senses, and dismantling the power structures of their day because
Yeah.
it was much easier at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, there was no cameras, there's no internet, there's no file,
Yeah.
you know, there's no.
I think we kept on your. Yeah.
So a bunch of people who stumble across a drug that happens to enhance their senses, they immediately can think faster, they have better aim, they have
Right.
better.
That's how the theories of almost every religion starts too, right? So it's
Well, the
like,
Catholic religion is pretty interesting, right? You get up there, you have something dissolve on your tongue, and you commune with God and the
Yeah.
truth and the light. I mean, that clearly looks like some type of drug ritual that's
Like
just
DMT or
yeah.
some shit.
No,
repurposed.
I mean, no, it's mushrooms. They would talk about those. What's those big mushrooms in the Mario, the red ones?
The agaric fly, the fly agaric mushrooms.
Something like that, yeah. Those big ones, because like when the mushroom fully grows, it turns into like a cup. So that's what they talk about. And then when it rains, so like they would go into the forest or whatever where these big mushroom caps grow, and when they're fully grown, they fold up, if you will, and they look like a cup. And when it rains, it fills it up with water. So if someone was probably thirsty, and they're like, okay, let me drink some rainwater while they were in there. And it happened to be psychedelics because like the psilocybin that's in the mushroom goes into the water and they drink it and they're like tripping balls. But then that's where the holy grail of what's the cup that they call the holy?
Yeah, the Holy Grail.
Yeah, holy grail,
Yeah.
the cup. Yeah, so like you drink water out of that and you are in one with God. So and then they felt that that kind of ties into the forbidden fruit. It grows in the jungle. It's
Yeah,
only
there's
for,
a lot of links. Remember the one we
That
talked
one right there,
about?
yeah.
Also in Hinduism, the reason why the cow is so sacred, they say, because when in the cow dung, the mushroom would grow,
Yeah.
and people in that time would eat the mushrooms, and
So,
they would
yeah,
have
the-
these trips, and they're like, oh, it's like something from God.
Yeah.
That's how we get apparently it's Santa Claus's suit too.
Yeah.
The
Because the
reindeer would eat the
what are
mushrooms.
they called? The shamans?
Well, there's way more mushroom references than I imagined. Holy shit.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Well, they call shamans, right? So like the Russian, I think in Siberia, like the Russian shamans would come town to town. They would come with reindeers in a sleigh, and because they would have different mushrooms as therapeutical medicine, if you will. So they would go to town with bags, and when that they would be considered Santa Claus, and then. And that's where the story of Santa Claus came. Like these people will come and they'll give them these psychedelics to help them, help them with whatever pain or what they're feeling. And the whole Christmas decoration thing comes from the shamans will take these big mushroom caps, and in order to eat a mushroom, you have to dry it out first.
Right.
So they would take these mushrooms are huge, right? So they would hang them in Christmas, the Christmas trees in the forest. They would just hang them all over it, so it looks like those
That is
Christmas balls.
crazy.
So like that's how
Like ornaments?
ornaments, yeah. So
We should go back to that holiday.
yeah. So that's how they would dry mushrooms all over the trees. They would pick them out of the forest and they would hang them in the Christmas tree, and then it will dry out.
Well, I mean, you got to remember that modern scheduling and laws against drugs are not even older than some people who are still alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
1940, I think it started getting really serious.
I was thinking about it last night, like such a stupid law. Like just like if you just look at the ban on weed, like
Well, if you're a Republican, I don't understand. I mean, you're for small government.
government, yeah, that's what I was
You're
trying to get to.
You're against the nanny state. You don't believe the government should tell you how big your coke should be. You don't
Yeah.
believe that they should tax you on sugar and all this stuff.
Exactly.
But
This
if
one
you
substance.
smoke this plant that grows from the ground,
Yeah,
we're gonna put you in a cage.
yeah,
For as long, if not longer, than murders.
Well,
Yeah.
forget like getting
What?
high for a second and just think about of all the things that you could do with hemp. Like
Such a good material.
You can make clothes with it. You could take it for protein. You could actually use it for plastic. So you could replace all plastics with hemp.
well, it's biodegradable. So all
Yeah,
that
it's
plastics
biodegradable. So,
will break
so
down.
it's renewable. In fact, it's like an amazing plant. You could also take it for kids who have those seizures. CBD oil.
The
So there's so
problem
many
with-
uses. It's actually nuts. Not I mean, forget the high part. Forget anybody. Let's say being high is wrong and you can't do that. But think of all the other applications.
yeah.
When you hear the argument that from pharmaceuticals that it's because of the pharmaceuticals, so there's that other side. They say that the pharmaceuticals, if they made weed legal, they would make much more because they would be able to control it more. Is that
So they
true?
can't have
No.
patents, I think, on it because it
a
grows from the
plant.
ground. It's
Yeah.
a
No,
plant.
that's not true.
That's not true?
The government of the United States has a patent on medical marijuana.
They do.
So they do, okay.
Yeah,
No, but with
and this is like a
pharmaceutical
year after they
companies-
said it has no medicinal value too. That's the interesting.
Wait,
part.
but so the pharmaceutical companies can have a patent on weed or on
I'm not sure if they can. But I
yeah,
know
that's
the
what I was saying. The
government-
pharmaceutical
government
companies, I
does.
think. Yeah.
I guess the only problem is that you can just grow it yourself,
Yeah.
and
So
you
why
wouldn't
do you need
have
them?
you wouldn't have to go to the pharmaceuticals to buy it.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
it's
why
just-
marijuana has always
point.
appealed to left-wing people because it's an inherently a subversive plant, right? I mean, what about? I mean, you listed all those things like it's that simple. I mean, what about the paper industry? What
Yeah,
about
paper.
the lumber industry? What about people
It's a
say
very disruptive plant.
a lot of people say it's inherently, actually ideologically the plant itself because it's so abundant. Sadly, is very left wing, right? Because right wing politics and economics always depend on scarcity, right? We gotta, in fact, make weed illegal so that there's not enough pain medications out there, so you buy these things.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good point.
So just legalizing marijuana would have a too drastic of a socializing effect to the society. It's not even about even the industrial aspects about taking. I mean, you'd have to get rid of many systemic problems. You can't hire that many lawyers anymore. You can't hire that many judges. You can't get that many cops on this. You don't need so many things that you once needed.
Yeah, because like the the war on drug, that majority of it would
What
have
happens
to
if we
end, right?
legalize drugs tomorrow and the
Yeah.
gangs can't
Do you-
can afford half the things they could afford?
Right. So like,
What are the cops gonna do?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So like, but I mean,
Wow.
just because of those things, that shouldn't be a factor, right? So sadly, to your point, but that it comes down to those things. They're looking at all the jobs. They're going to be a lot, but I mean, there are going to be other jobs that are going to be gained out of that industry, blowing up and growing.
And it's
into
not going to
place.
be all roses either. I mean, if you if you re-legalize weed, it was legal at one point. If you re-legalize weed, the gangs will probably actually go through maybe a violent time. They're going to have to fight for
It's
territory.
going to be like an adjustment period.
It'll be an
They'll,
adjustment.
Yeah.
they'll all upgrade to coke.
But I mean,
That's still a lot of them are going to get filtered out of the market though because
Yeah,
how
because
many can afford that?
not as many people
Do coke
Who's got
as
the
weed,
connections?
yeah.
And who's got
Oh yeah.
And and honestly, not to be super racial, but that is a more majority a white person drug.
Yeah, it's a rich. You need money to do
You
coke,
need a
right?
lot of money. I mean, a
Yeah.
gram, as far as I know, like $60 to $120,
Yeah,
depending
it's
on
expensive.
quality.
Yeah,
A
even if you
gram.
were addicted to that, how would you pay for it?
People figure it out.
Damn.
That's for sure. People figure it out. People are addicted
Yeah.
Take
to
loans,
yeah.
So
student loans.
People figure out how to pay that stuff off.
Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely it'll be an adjustment period for the gangs. They might actually become a legit industry then, right? They will probably open
That's
up a
I
shop.
guess the scariest thing to the power structure is that we were watching a little bit of Dave Chappelle, but I think it was actually not Dave Chappelle. It was Chris Rock in a long ago in the 90s. It was like the 99 stand-up said something like, "You'll never see weed legalized because the last thing the government wants is some black people to get rich."
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, he didn't say rich. He said wealthy, and then he drew this distinction between rich and wealthy, and he said, rich is what you lose with a bad night and a drug habit. Wealthy
Yeah.
is the white guy who signs Shaq's check, Shaq's
Yeah.
check. I mean, Shaq is definitely rich,
Yeah.
but someone pays him.
Yeah.
So there's differences here. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
That guy's wealthy.
Yeah, he also ended it with saying, like, if Bill Gates woke up with Oprah's money, he'd jump out a window. Like, that's...
Yeah.
Oh my.
That's what happened in
Yeah.
whenever the economy crashes or whatever, people end up saying, "Oh, my billions turned into millions," and now my.
But then that will be, I think we talked about it before, like institutional racism, right? We just want to we don't want to do something because out of the fear that, obviously you don't want this certain sect of people to grow. You don't want them to have that level of money and income, because with money
not when you've been oppressing them.
for
pretty
forever.
constantly.
Yeah.
People say, "Oh, the slavery is over." I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
but after slavery was Jim Crow. Oh,
Yeah.
but Jim Crow's over. Okay,
Yeah.
well then it was separate but equal. Oh, but that's over. Then
Yeah.
it was the drug war.
Yeah.
Oh, but
It's always these excuses. They've never had a fair play or a fair chance into life, and then we just assume now.
I want to
that,
be very clear. The
yeah.
housing crisis wiped out half
Yeah.
of the wealth owned by black people.
Yeah.
And they already only were making $5,000 medium income household, whereas the average white family makes $87,000.
You talking about like the thing that happened in 2008?
The 2008 housing crisis wiped out the financial wealth of the black communities by 50%. And even before that, they were only making $5,000 per $87,000.
How is that? Because they all just defaulted on their loans and...
How it affected the black community was mostly, I guess, that they were probably targeted by those predator loan people.
Right,
I don't know if you guys ever saw
yeah.
The Big Short.
Yeah. Did you go? Yeah, it's a great movie.
But there was, a group of basically jock assholes who would go around.
Yeah, give anyone a loan.
Give anybody a loan.
Yeah, and then put them through that cycle of bullshit.
And then, just take away their house when the time came, and then the bank
then you resell
double
it.
dipped and then did it again, like 5 times per house or something like that.
It's fucked up.
Yeah, I've always just been of the opinion that institutional racism is real, but I feel like there has to be personal responsibility in there too. So there's got to be a good mix. I don't know how you feel.
Well,
about
you guys
it.
are all mind high people. You understand very quickly the second you either took one of your chemicals that like 90% of your bodily functions are not of your own consciousness and of your own conscious control. So I think that's silly.
Right.
If you understand and have had this experience that even your breathing is not really conscious, and that is your 100% connection to this existence.
Right.
So I want to be very serious about that. If you're not in control of your breathing, you're not in control of your emotional situation, you're not in control of your thought processes.
Yeah, but for that reason exactly. So for that reason exactly that you're not in control of it. So if you give out negative messaging and you say, because your environment controls you, and you start saying that it's all somebody's fault, then that's all those human beings, that's what their consciousness will focus on. It's not going to focus on the fact that, yeah, they are stuck in a bad situation, but by actually having positive messages of personal responsibility, I feel like their consciousness can take control of a really bad situation. For sure, you're right. They're fucked. There's no, what I mean. I don't want to talk about that because that's stupid. You're so right. They're so fucked. But I feel like if you just give negative messaging and you only say that, look, these people have fucked you over, and you just say that shit to human beings who don't have much control of themselves, that makes them act worse.
I think the opposite's actually true. I think when you try to keep telling people that no, it's your own reason that you don't do well, and they tend to believe it in this society. Most people actually believe as Hasban believes. The people in the poor situations, I have family who are extraordinarily in poverty-stricken situations that, to my knowledge, was not their fault, but they blame themselves, and it causes depression. It causes anxiety.
No, that's a good point too. That's actually like a very good point. So I'd be in the middle somewhere. I'm not trying to say it's
you're
their
right.
fault.
You're
I'm
right.
saying that they have the power.
They
do.
do.
There's like a distinction because you're right. People who are in worse situations. I just saw something on Reddit earlier that if you're poor,
right,
it takes a toll on your body.
No, it takes a toll on
it takes physical
mind and
on your mind, on your body. So you and that person who's rich are not actually living the same life. It was like 2.1 times the stress or something. So you have 2.1 times the stress and obviously less money than the guy who has money.
And you don't think rationally either. So even whatever situation that you might be in, sometimes you're not making the best decisions.
Yeah, you can't think rationally. You don't have the time to.
Yeah, because you're just so worried and stressed out about eating and providing.
And I think
for
the
your family.
sad part that and I know, Hasban, you're right. Like a lot of people don't realize how much more effort they could put in their lives and make it better.
That's I guess the messaging that I'm going for. But I also understand what you're saying. Like
Yeah,
people are already fucked too.
Like for example, I'm sorry, Z, right?
Yeah.
Z couldn't understand that he couldn't. He had a problem with listening with people until all this happened. You know what I'm saying? Like some people don't learn that lesson their entire lives. Mm-hmm. Now, somebody who has such a very basic problem with listening, now, for example, is caught in the ghetto.
Yeah.
And you're trying to be a father figure, but their father is in jail for whatever reason, or their father wasn't around for whatever reason, or hell, even their mother wasn't around, and all they had their grandmother. And that's a large portion of the black community and even Hispanic community, being raised by your grandmother. You're just incapable. It's not that the person wants to be in a situation where they're in a, maybe as a conservative would say, sucking from the state, sucking from the teat of the state or whatever. They all have pride too. Nobody wants to feel like they're subservient. That's why welfare rolls fell when Clinton and his wife Bill Clinton and Mrs. Clinton came out with that welfare to work crap.
Mm-hmm.
That was a horrible program, but so many people went for it because nobody wants to be on welfare.
Yeah.
That's not. I'm
Yeah,
sure
I
there's
agree.
some
Nobody enjoys
people
it. Yeah, I
who
mean-
are so lazy. They're like, yeah, I just want to sit here and collect my $500 a month, and I'll be cool with
Right.
that.
The problem that we talked
But-
about before, like, you know, like conservatives, somehow in their minds, they feel like there is a utopia that exists, that everything's supposed to be perfect. You know, there's supposed to be no poor people in the community. If people are poor, it's their fault. You know, they don't realize the universe is balanced, but both with positive and negative.
Well, just even.
No,
Go ahead.
I mean, like, no matter what society and how perfect of a society you have, you will have lazy people in it. That's just by law of what the nature is. You know, if you have a million or 300 million people living in the country, there is going to be a few portion of those people are just damn lazy and would want welfare. But that's not the majority. That is a few people, and then it sucks that the way they look at it is, oh, why do I got to pay for them? You know, but you got to look at the bigger picture, right? So we all have to do our share in the country and pay our fair share of taxes. And yeah, there are going to be these few people are just lazy that we're going to have to support. But that's any civilization that you can ever imagine. You can't not have those people. You know what I mean?
And I think it sucks because we see a lot of successful people who wake up later in life. You know,
Yeah.
there's people like Bernie Sanders is a perfect example of somebody who became more active later in their life.
Yeah.
Trent Reznor didn't write his first song till he was like 30 or something like that. If you guys are into Nine Inch Nails, I don't know. But there's so many people.
I like a couple of their songs.
Yeah, there's so many people who needed, for example, the woman who wrote To Kill a Mockingbird had to remove herself from the society. She lived in a cabin for like a year and she wrote her book. You know, there's art which enhances republics, which is what, you know, we live in, usually requires space away from the system itself. And
That's
that
the point,
requires a subsidy. I mean, you can't live in this society, for example, without working.
Yeah.
For example, France, pretty much every other liberal democracy on this planet offers a lot of help to their artists. If you go to London right now and you want to go to a small DJ show, there's going to be 100 people, more than that there.
Yeah.
I'm talking, you go to an open mic, there's 50, 60 people there. In Amsterdam, if you want. There's art scenes that are thriving. In Chicago, it's happening now. What I'm saying is kind of outdated. This was true maybe 4 years ago. But now
Yeah,
in
I feel
Chicago,
like there's a great art scene here.
yeah, right now there's a huge burgeoning art scene in Chicago, and it's friggin' amazing. Because if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I would have been like, you know, the weed's illegal. Cops are always trying to knock down parties, and
Yeah.
the mayor is selling our goddamn meters,
City.
and you know, like
Yeah.
there's
The
no.
entire city.
But I didn't realize something. I mean, this is kind of misinterpreted nowadays, but I'm going to go with the misinterpreted definition of what's called accelerationism,
Mm-hmm.
which is this idea that if too much bad crap is happening, people
Yeah.
tend to wake up,
To wake up to see.
like what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, for example, a lot of people were protesting about the deportations.
Yeah.
Oh, can you believe it, Armand? 600 people were deported this week. It's like,
Yeah.
yes, because that's what was going on with Obama.
Yeah, it was happening before.
That's what was
too.
going on with Clinton.
Yeah.
Here, would you like to see a YouTube video of a speech of Clinton saying, "Oh, these Mexicans are crossing our borders and taking our jobs because they exist"?
Yeah, you just need a person like Trump to wake you up and then finally realize the things our government is doing. But some of these things were already happening, but
Yeah.
he's just he's using the
He's
wrong
exposing
words.
it.
He's using
Accidentally
yeah.
exposing it to. That's why the Koch brothers didn't want him to win.
Yeah,
The Koch brothers are on record somewhere in some story. I read it a while ago. I can't remember where, but they didn't want Trump to win because they knew that the liberal left wing would wake up
and
extraordinarily
see, yeah,
hard if this man won. So they actually wanted probably Clinton, to be honest.
take it. Yeah, I mean, and you even see with all like the drone bombings that Obama did. Like any other president, it was the highest under him.
Well,
right?
we already have now what we already know what a new president with drones will do, and our
Yeah.
new president sucks.
Yeah.
because he already killed 200 civilians
Yeah.
Oh yeah, in that one attack.
last, I guess, sometime in the past 3-4 days.
Oh,
And that never happened once under Obama. He killed civilians, but not like this mass.
But his number wasn't that great either, right?
No, it was not.
Yeah, so I think if you go here, I'm
Well, yeah,
putting it up right now.
I haven't heard about this.
Yeah, so it happened in Mosul. I think they said 200
Yeah,
civilians died.
200 civilians.
Holy
Yeah, civilians
shit.
died. So they're just talking about random people just being killed because we don't want to send any troops and we don't want to have too much responsibility either. This is obviously a picture of the destruction.
And not that any type of drone strike or any type of collateral damage is forgivable at all, but before Obama's drone program, we had the invasion of Iraq, which resulted in the deaths of probably 600,000 or
This
more.
is messed up, man.
Iraqi
200 civilians
civilians.
has died.
Well, yeah, that happened in the past few days.
Wasn't
believe.
that on the same day as that London terrorist attack? I think.
It's possible.
Yeah, I think it did happen.
Same day.
Like I don't know if it was.
And look
same
at that,
day, but,
and that's
like,
what I thought.
it
This is the
overlapped.
highest civilian death
It's
toll
insane, man.
since the actual war in Iraq. So Obama actually was able to carry out 8 years without killing more civilians than
There's
Trump
always-
just did right now.
One airstrike.
One airstrike. Oh my
Oh,
god.
sorry.
And this is-
200 people.
And
That's,
what was-
And 2 weeks ago, he sent a Navy SEAL seaman, and they killed 13 civilians on accident. 2, I believe, were American citizens. 1 was a 13-year-old girl.
Yeah,
Well, you know-
we talked about this on the podcast.
Yeah, I remember that one. But what's freaking insane is like with
So,
so
to
much.
everybody out there, I mean, it matters.
Of course,
Stop
like
sitting around saying, "Oh, the president doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
one thing or the other."
as 200 lives are affected, how many of them are
Tell
kids?
these people who
Yeah.
are dead, it didn't fucking matter.
Well,
Yeah.
I just wanted to kind of go on what you were saying earlier that the Koch brothers wanted Hillary, right?
Right.
So in some ways, you're kind of saying that Trump is a positive. It's because he's
It's true.
waking us up.
It's true.
Because Hillary would have kind of. I think about it a lot. How would we feel if she was in power? I feel like we'd just be in a
Indifferent.
dull. We'd be in a daze. We
It's the
wouldn't care
norm.
as much.
It would only be the activist community, honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're right. The activist community, would
But-
be sharing on Facebook. People would be like, whatever.
But this
Trump,
has-
like, he represents something real.
He has everyone talking. Like even my parents or my mom never
No,
talked
the
about
day he was
politics.
elected, I got upset because I see all these people who don't say anything
Yeah.
every
and now
day.
they're coming out.
And now they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, I don't talk about politics usually." And right there, I stop listening. I'm like, "Well, then don't talk now. Go do something. I want to see a picture of you at a rally." And then, to be fair, since then, I feel like everybody who talks shit about Trump the day after the election did go to some rally by
Yeah,
now.
it's true.
To
A lot
some,
of people did.
Yeah.
to something, and so I'm actually very proud of everybody I know. Really, even the honestly the anti-liberal, I want to say pro-Trump people. I mean, to their credit, they weren't involved either, and I feel like a lot of them who became involved are learning a lot of lessons.
I just hope that it doesn't get compartmentalized and people actually talk to each other because I feel like the two camps are really far from each other. So you protest for your side and they protest for their side. But
There's
that
no conversation.
understanding- Yeah, there's no Well, I'm hoping that changes, but yeah, I don't feel like
I feel like it is changing slowly. I mean,
Yeah, I think hopefully.
Remember, a lot of the Trump support came from his conspiracy-minded bullcrap about globalists and whatnot. And well, part of that is true. There are definitely rich people trying to consolidate power and take over
that's only half conspiracy.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's also the way the world's going.
Exactly. I mean,
you
that's the
can't
way the
stop
world
technology.
has always been.
Yeah.
There's always been small cabals of people trying to rule, and they suck. I mean, the cool thing about small cabals trying to rule is that they're always incompetent. Like, look at the Bush administration. That was the most compared to the Trump administration, and that back then that was called incompetent.
Right.
Now that looks like, whoa, Bush was such a great president.
I just kind of want to go back to this article
Yeah,
because
go
I wanted to just say because I ever since I've been addicted to everything Trump, right? I followed politics because I got into politics when Bush got on board, and with that whole shit happening, I think I was in about high school going to college, and that's when I first got into politics. But like I'm at another level now where I'm just like constantly reading shit, and what's devastating is like I've been following this shit like crazy, and I didn't even hear about this.
Right.
Because like right now I'm just so focused on like the healthcare bill not passing. It's insane with him being in office, the amount of shit that's happening. Like something like this will slide underneath the radar, right? Like
This is huge. This is the
This-
biggest civilian loss since
and
2000.
I'm just dumbfounded that I've been following the shit and I didn't hear about it
Because Trump-
it's just so much shit just piling on one another. Like it's insane. Like how do you keep up with all this?
There's something new always happening, and the media is always just switching.
It's like there's always something new in his administration that we just keep getting sidetracked with all the crazy shit that's happening. And then, I mean, with the FBI investigation in Russia right now, they're saying they do have something on the collusion of
Right.
the. I don't know if you watched the Real Time with Bill Maher episode, right?
Yeah,
Because
I
he was
also
talking
listened
about.
to, the new Sam Harris, and they also talk about it there.
They're saying they have something they're putting together to come out, and they'll lay the names of some. There was someone.
The latest is that where's Flynn?
Yeah.
Where's Michael Flynn? Okay, we have Roger Stone saying, "Oh, let's talk." You got the two other guys, Carter Page and
I
Roger
think,
Stone
Manafort.
and Manafort. Right?
Yeah.
They're all saying, "Oh, yeah, interview us, not under oath, but interview us. Interview us. We'll talk, not under oath, but we'll talk. We'll talk."
Yeah.
Where's Michael Flynn?
That's true.
Where's Michael
He's
Flynn?
fell off the radar, hasn't he?
Well, that's because a lot of CNN, well, not a lot, one CNN analysis is now reporting that Michael Flynn has flipped to the FBI.
Oh shit.
And if that has actually happened, this president's going to will be
Impeached.
impeached.
Yeah. So the impeachment thing is good. Is actually it's actually getting some steam because at first I was like, oh man, liberals are just being liberals. But this impeachment thing is actually going somewhere now.
No, if it is true that they
Yeah, it is
have,
true.
they say they have something they're about to present pretty soon. So like,
That's what that guy said on Real Time. Bill Maher's like, okay, but if this is true, how about then? He's like, okay, well, if this is true, how about then?
Yeah.
And he finally got the guy to agree. Okay,
yeah, if it's
at a
true,
certain point, then even the
Actually-
Republicans can say,
The truth is, though, that Bill Maher was wrong, though. It wouldn't be treason. If they colluded with the Russians to actually take the election, they colluded with what's technically and lawfully an allied power right now. Treason only is...
Against-
is
oh, okay, yeah, I
treason
get
is
what you're
only an
saying.
act
if you
of
want to
war.
get technical, yeah.
If you want, no, this
Yeah,
is a
no,
technical situation.
no, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, completely technical. I actually don't even think that's if you talk about the big scheme of things, I don't think what they did was like wrong. I mean, our government has always cooperated with like other governments. It says we don't like Russia, and they represent a threat, and they always have. And that guy's definitely Putin's not a good guy, but
I think to be clear, we do that to like...
smaller
not,
countries.
yeah, not that it's...
I know. I thought
not
it-
that it's...
Yeah, not someone that's big, not someone so powerful, not someone who's trying to control.
And not that it's
Europe.
justified, and not that it's justified. I mean, the little things we did, especially in the 80s under Reagan, to the South American countries did so much damage to South America that if you really read it, I mean, we're talking maybe about 1 million people died with all the different actions. Grenada, supporting the right-wing people in Argentina, and just so much crap we did in South America. I mean, that's why everyone hates... I mean, there's a reason Brazil and everyone all down there hate us, you know.
But Trump is like really evil. Like he is like we have a big force in this country of good. He is straight up. I'm gonna get what I want. I'm gonna do what I want to get my ends.
Well,
kind
he's
of guy.
he's a monarch in reality. He believes that he can just sit there, sign executive
And he'll
orders,
fix it.
and you know there's going to be no court.
For me, I don't think that, from his perspective, right? I try to like think the world
He doesn't
through
have
it.
a perspective.
No, yeah. So I mean, I try to just picture his, decisions from his point of view. I don't think that he's evil. I just feel like
Putin?
No,
Trump.
Trump. Okay.
I think he just is not unfortunate not to have different perspective in life, where he's just had this little bubble. I mean, we all have our
It's
bubbles,
troubling because we have YouTube videos of him saying he's a Democrat and
Yeah.
how the economy works so much better under Democratic rule. And I would believe what you were saying, but
Yeah.
it's sad that apparently he looks like he knows better. He knows
think so?
better, and he just wants to. He wants to do, and there's a good chance maybe he became conservative, but not his kids.
But, yeah.
his kids didn't even weren't able to register in time to vote Republican because their whole lives they've been Democrat.
Yeah.
So what's
Is
that
that
tell
true?
you?
Is that true? That's the first time I'm hearing.
Well,
that.
I've
That's
heard he's been a
absolutely
Democrat
true.
before.
No. The kids weren't allowed to vote for their own father in the New York primary
Oh yeah.
because there's voter registration. Well, the voter registration laws in New York are tyrannical because you were supposed to declare 9 months in advance, and who thinks about elections 9 months in advance? Nobody.
So you're saying before 9 months in advance, you're supposed to say
You were
which
supposed
party
to
you
switch.
represent, right?
And so
they-
apparently 9 months before the election,
And they didn't do it?
the Trump family wasn't aware what party they were going to be running for or something.
Oh
like that.
shit.
So, yeah, there you go. Trump children unable to vote for dad in New York primary because they weren't registered Republicans. These people were Democrats.
Okay, that's insane.
So wherever he could get a seat, he just took it.
I guess, and that was one of the main Republican arguments against Trump.
Trump.
Like, look at all these videos of this man and his
That's insane.
supporters, and everybody was saying, "Oh, well, he's changed," and they were like, "This is 2007." Like, well, no, he's changed.
What are you highlighting?
They had a long time register and they were unaware of the rules, so they feel very, very guilty. They feel very guilty, but it's fine. I understand that. Ah, man, I do understand that Trump may or may not be evil, is doing wrong, but he is.
I think he's stupid. I think
The
that's what he is.
entertainment-
I was gonna ask you guys this earlier when you were talking about this. What is Trump's end game? It's everybody that I seem to follow seems to say money. So his
I would
goal
agree.
is to accumulate more wealth in his life at the age of 70. That's his main goal in life when he has all the money in the world. And I just feel like if that's real, that's fucked up.
No.
But then it's so fucked up, I can't believe it's real.
Is it-
It's got to be something more than that.
There's a quote today that came out that said Steve Bannon, guys who Steve
Yeah,
Bannon,
Steve Bannon.
the real
Sorry.
president or whatever. He actually, before he approached Trump to run, apparently, or before he was going to help Trump, he was actually trying to urge Jeff Sessions to run.
Holy shit.
And and he said very clearly that he didn't expect Jeff Sessions to win at all, but he thought it'd be good to advance the nationalist agenda.
Agenda, yeah.
So like that proves to me is that Trump didn't think he was going to win. And if you listen very carefully to his post speeches after, a week after he was going to win, he's pretty honest that he didn't think he was going to win.
Even during the election, like at the beginning, they all were. They show pictures from the election day from
so
his
I don't
camp.
think Trump is that evil, honestly. I really thought he was just like, here's a free ride to get a lot of publicity.
Yeah, to build his brand.
But then these people, Steve Bannon, Jeff Sessions, these people were very serious about him winning.
They jumped on board,
and he accidentally won.
Yeah.
These guys look evil.
I mean, Steve Bannon is
these
like
guys
really
look evil.
Well, Steve Bannon is not just kind of like a nationalist. He's really nationalist. He's not just against illegal immigrants. He's against legal immigrants.
Right.
So he doesn't want any new people in the U.S.
So like people, with green cards, when that whole travel ban happened,
and Steve Miller wrote the bill.
Yeah, even the people with green card couldn't
order.
come back, or with visa couldn't come back. So like, he's against even like to his
a lot of what was unreported about that too is that they're still doing this. Is that an ICE agent will come up to somebody with a green card and says, "Oh, you want your citizenship? Well, here, sign this, give us your green card." And then they'll take the green card, and then what they signed was that I don't want to be a citizen.
Because it is a lengthy.
It's a lengthy process. It takes a long time to get your green card, and for some ICE agent to think it's cool.
Yeah, and a lot of those people are not well versed with English or reading either, so they take advantage of them and just take their green card
That's
away.
unbelievable.
This is happening every day.
Yeah.
And this again.
The U.S.
In the U.S., yeah.
I feel like if there's like a public shift, though, the power of the executive gets harder to use, I guess, because if the ICE agents, they're human beings, they know that their whole family and everyone's against what Trump is doing. So it gets harder, I feel like, for the executives to maintain control and actually enforce their laws if the people kind of rise up against this.
Well, if we can get through this presidency, I don't think the executive power is ever going to have as much power as it does. I mean, we're going to experience something like we experienced after, I think, the revolution. I mean, there's going to be a new set of ideologies that says, no, the president cannot oversee surveillance. No, the president cannot write executive orders like this. No, the president can. I mean, already there's laws that are saying the president has to show his taxes. There's a president already saying that the president must divest, which is like, how is that not a law?
Yeah,
and not to his family.
First place, and not to his family.
So already there's a huge check on the executive branch that never had to be there, because typically the people who inhabit that office have respect
for that chair, right?
For the office. I mean, even Reagan. I mean, even Bush. They would remove themselves from their business interests, and especially Bush.
I mean, right there and then is this collusion. I mean, that right there should be enough.
No, that is enough.
It should more than enough to impeach him.
It's not enough for his support base, which is important.
Which is insane. Like
you have to convince his base that he has to go.
Well, right now, I don't think there is enough to actually convict him of anything in particular. If you go and look at all the stuff, it just implies that there are so many ties that you cannot deny that the ties have to have some kind of influence. There's no direct evidence like, oh, he took this amount of money or a smoking gun. But when everybody around you has ties to Russia and has taken money from them, you're going to say there's no influence, from that country?
Well, I mean, actually, no. I mean, I would have actually said that's fine, but the problem is they lied about it.
Yeah.
They lied about it at every stage of
even
the way.
Even under oath, right? So, like...
And then when they got caught, if you're not a Trump supporter, you could see them acting like children about it.
Yeah.
You could see them saying, "Oh, I don't have a relationship with Russia, but what about President Bush? Here's a picture of Nancy Pelosi and all of them meeting with the Russians." And it's like, well, yeah, that was on their schedule. Yeah. That was in the public view, and there was a log and everything about why they went to go visit. You are having your surrogates run around.
That whole Jeff Sessions thing when Senator Frank asked him that question, and like it was not even asking him, has he met with anyone from Russia?
Right, he volunteered it.
Yeah, so he just answered that question, and then when he goes back, I didn't mean by that.
And come on, you guys are human beings. You know, when you have done something like that, it was because you were guilty.
Yeah.
When someone says, "Hey, do you know where the water went?" I didn't take it.
Yeah.
That's essentially what he did.
Yeah, it's not asking you, did you take it? He was just asking a general question.
No, he asked if you as the Attorney General of the United States come across information that people in your campaign were colluding with the Russians, would you turn that evidence in? And he said, I wasn't colluding with the Russians.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, what? We didn't ask you that.
Yeah.
So that was a very suspicious then.
Yeah.
Let alone the fact it came out that he in fact did multiple times. Talk to the Russians.
And it's that same guy. I forgot his name. Right? They like Flynn and
Sergei Kislyak.
Yeah, that dude.
He's actually, according to CNN, and I don't know if it's true, but CNN reports that he is the top spy recruiter in the United States.
Really?
His whole job is to turn people
But he's a Russian ambassador here. Is that what it is?
Well, yeah, but historically, ambassadors are spies. You know, that's what they serve
Yeah.
double functions.
That's true. You're there to be diplomatic, but also, to your point, spy.
And I think the most indicting thing, and it pushes me over the edge and says, okay, Trump is probably guilty, was that Paul Manafort moved into Trump Tower in 2005. 2005 is when this man started tweeting against Obama about citizenship.
Yeah. So how
and all
long
like
has
that.
he been talking to him?
And you know, there's the people who go really far in the conspiracy Trump side say, you know, Melania was probably delivered to him, and she's, you know, part of the conspiracy, and
Damn.
she's probably, and that's too far. But
Yeah.
Paul Manafort clearly
yeah.
was hired by pro-Putin.
Is he gonna be arrested or something, or what's
Paul
gonna
Manafort.
happen? Yeah.
I mean, he's volunteering some type of non-under oath cross-examination. That doesn't mean shit if you're not under oath.
Right. So, like, are they gonna prosecute him or what? Like, what he
It all
did.
well, one, it depends if Flynn is actually flipped. It depends what they heard on the phone. I mean, they probably. I'm under the impression that Michael Flynn seems to have thought that whoever, because he knew he's a national security person, he knew that his phone is being tapped.
Yeah.
He seemed to be under the impression, I think they all were, that once we get in the White House, we're going to have 100% support.
Control,
We're going to
right.
have control.
So-
Anybody who's listening to it, all the cops are conservative. All the FBI people are conservative.
so
I mean, they seem to have thought this because that's
Yeah.
how they were behaving. When
That's a
it
good
became
point.
when it became quickly clear that all these leaks were not only just coming from the intelligence community, but they were coming from inside the White House.
Yeah.
You know, that becomes like a, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like a small coup happening in front of our eyes. You know?
Well, there's definitely a battle between the intelligence community and the current administration. Like, there's literally a battle happening in front of our eyes.
And it's very strange because, you know, if you would have talked to me 4 years ago, I would have said, fuck liberal democracy and fuck the intelligence communities and, you know, fuck them. We should all you know,
Right.
forget mass surveillance. And, you know, Obama is not even a real liberal. You know, screw that guy. He's a liberal with a mask on and blah. But now I honestly realize how fragile the whole system really is.
Yeah.
It takes one reality TV star.
To bring it all down.
That's it.
It is true, like House of Cards, isn't it? Like, you just put him there. Everything.
All he has to do is say one lie on Twitter every
Yeah.
other week.
Yeah.
And we're questioning whether or not the intelligence community is really a,
Yeah.
you know, like Bill Maher was saying that night, the intelligence community, which is supposed to be a bipartisan watchdog of our
system.
system,
Yeah.
is we can't trust that now.
Yeah.
We can't trust. Half of the country thinks the Ninth Circuit Court, which I think 2/3 were appointed by. No, I'm sorry. I think one was appointed by the original Bush, is a activist.
Against, but yeah, like Bill Maher put out a good point. Like the damage of the fake news, the damage of they're against me.
Yeah, it's not even
like,
Trump.
yeah, so like
Snooze
how
is-
far has he done enough damage? And I think he presented that question right where he said, like if we find out that Trump did something, how many people? If the FBI came tomorrow or presented some information, how many people in the country would honestly believe in it? And he's like, half the country will not. So then how do you proceed?
That's actually one of the biggest problems.
Yeah, so he's damaging the system to such a certain extent that does he even realize that what he's doing? He's gonna.
They say he does realize what he's doing. He's actually doing something that Putin does, and like a lot of authoritarian monarchs, I guess, do, which is just disinformation.
Well, disinformation and constant comparison.
Yeah, between what is. Are you saying between the two information?
Well, Bill O'Reilly asked him, well, you know, Putin's a killer. And then,
Oh yeah. False equivalency.
yeah, false equivalency all the time. Well, we're killers too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of fucked up that he actually did say
Said
that. He
that.
said that about our country.
When
you know?
I saw that
you have to
live,
be at least patriotic.
Yeah,
and-
I saw that live and I was blown away. I'm like, holy shit, did you just say that? Like,
Yeah, and before the Super Bowl. No
yeah,
less.
yeah, it was during the halftime show, right?
And who
Or
does
no.
this killing, sir?
Yeah.
Like, is it the cops that you support? Is it
Yeah.
the intelligence agency that you
Like,
support?
Yeah,
Who's-
what part of our who's
who
doing
carries
this?
out all this killing? No one asks him the cool questions. You know, I want to know that answer. Like, who do you envision is doing this? I imagine though he's trying to insinuate that it's the Clintons. You know, the
Yeah.
Clintons and their secret security are going around killing all these people.
Yeah,
Because that's what, I don't know if you know, I was following right-wing conspiracy blogs all through the election, and they were all so pushy about look at all the 40 people that the Clintons had to murder to keep their,
Yeah, I heard that a
comparing
lot.
it to House of Cards, like, oh, they're so Frank Underwood, you know, they're so,
yeah.
they killed this reporter, and they killed this lady, and of course everything's like 3 degrees away from each other, and it's very loose, and maybe some of them are plausible, I don't know. But then,
I'm sure there's some plausible in there, to be honest.
but then there's 9 Russian diplomats that have been killed since the election, and the
Yeah.
conspiracy
Holy
the conspiracy community doesn't give a shit about it.
Damn.
Wait, are you saying that Putin had these people killed?
It looks very clear that Putin had these people killed. They're all
I didn't know much
poisoned.
about that.
They're all showing up in the back of. You can just look it up. 9 diplomats killed since the election, and it's all over the alternative. I don't want to say alternative news sites anymore because now that's like alt-right.
Alternative facts.
Yeah.
Like things like the Young Turks and YouTube media used to be called alternative media, but now
What
they
about
have
Joe
to-
Rogan?
Yeah.
Is the alternative?
I mean, I would assume.
Well, he's mainstream in my opinion. He has as many views.
When was
as
this
almost-
article? February 27th. It's up to 9 now.
Several deaths have been described as heart attacks or the result of a brief illness.
Or falling from like the 9th floor of your building on election day, which is my favorite one.
Like our election days? These
Yeah,
people
our
die?
election day, a Russian diplomat fell.
Okay,
from,
so
like-
8 of them have died according to CNN one day ago.
There you go.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah, we saw one on live television get shot in Turkey.
Oh yeah, the guy that
People were saying it was a terrorist attack, but people were also like, I mean, all you gotta do is yell Allahu Akbar while you shoot somebody, and okay, it's all cleared up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we got this one solved.
It's like the old Dave Chappelle, just sprinkle some crack on him.
Yeah.
Sprinkle some crack on him, and it's over.
So, what's
That's
the theory on
terrifying.
this? Why are these people dying? They're gonna
Because
speak
these are all
against.
people who knew about the connections between the Trump campaign and the.
Oh shit.
One of the people who died was the original person who introduced Trump to the Russians.
No way.
Yeah, for 1987 or something like that.
God damn.
He was the.
Yeah, this is going way deeper than
Yeah.
I thought.
Holy shit.
Well, in 1987, you had Trump putting anti-NATO ads in the New York Times. He also was putting anti-black stuff. He was saying, "Oh, look at these rapists." Do you guys remember that?
No, I don't.
He put up an ad in the New York Times about just for fun to ask for the death penalty for these black kids. And it's interesting that that one of Russia's main geopolitical strategies was to increase the black versus white rift in Chicago, in America. Essentially, that was one of their strategies. They said RT, their Russian, outlet, was to now start focusing on all the, like, didn't you? I don't know if you guys have ever followed police shootings before the Michael Brown situation, but
No.
they were happening.
Before too, right? Yeah.
They were happening, and the police never covered it. Why did
Yeah.
they start covering it in 2013 at the same time that Edward Snowden decides to expose
The NSA
the NSA? And where's he now?
in Russia.
He's in Moscow, right? So he's
Yeah.
probably part of all this.
What's it called? I think in Joe Rogan, I was watching that episode with Colin Moriarty. I don't know if you guys got to see it, but Colin asked Joe a cool question. I think even Neil deGrasse I think was asked this question too. And how does America? How should we see Snowden in our country as a patriot or as a person that committed treason against his own country?
Well, I don't think he committed treason. I mean, unless he actually was working for the Russians. If he exposed our most secret data collection and spying stuff just for the sake of Russia,
I think the treason part will come in
he's
when
a
you
traitor
take
for
that
sure.
job and they tell you that you're gonna have classified information and
that's
and
also
then you-
America's fault with all this privatization crap because he wasn't
Yeah.
even for this. He wasn't working with the
Yeah.
NSA.
Yeah, I
he was
think
a
it was-
goddamn contractor
Yeah.
with this stupid idea that we should. And that's actually not even just Republicans; it's also neoliberal.
So then that's crazy. So who does have access to all our shit?
What do you want
know?
to show us, Hasban?
So President Richard Nixon's Justice Department actually sued Trump's dad, Fred Trump, for systematically discriminating against black.
Because they had housing complexes, bunch of like,
But
but they
apparently-
wouldn't rent out to
And
black
he
people.
continued that though. He continued that in his own.
Yeah, he brought it
his
up.
own
He
line.
brought. I think Hillary brought this up in a debate, and he says, "Oh, we won that case, or the case
Well,
was
we won
dropped."
that
Or
case.
no, we didn't win. It was the lawsuit was dropped, so technically it's not true.
Technically,
Because I mean, yeah, he didn't get accused, but it was filed against him. But whatever charges were dropped for some.
when all these facts come out, you're like, "Holy shit! This is so much. It goes so deep."
Yeah, this
These-
whole Russian
all-
thing is
all these
mind
players
blowing.
have been around for so long, and there's like nobody else like Trump who knows the media, who knows business, who knows connections, who knows what's happening in the world. If you think about it,
Why
It's a
isn't
very
it-
unique perspective?
Why is it not on main media though? I don't
Well,
mainstream media
CNN is covering it almost every day. Surprisingly,
about
the
the
name,
deaths in Russia, the diplomats.
they cover it slowly. I mean, I think the story you pulled about it was from CNN.
Because that's
Yeah, it
startling.
was- it was
I mean,
for sure.
that's so startling that,
Yeah.
that when you
CNN
said
has
it, blew
actually
my
been-
mind.
CNN has actually been.
Doing his job.
It's doing. I mean, I'm not a big. I was never a big.
Yeah.
Again, like
What-
5 years ago, I would have said, fuck all.
What's
media,
that guy
too.
named Jack? In CNN, Jack something. Jackson.
I'm sorry, Jake Tapper.
Jake Tapper. I feel like he's doing a good job.
He's doing a very
good job. Yeah, I
He's doing
think
a very, very good job.
of all the hosts in CNN's ever had, like when you watch his shit, it actually feels genuine. Like when you watch Anderson Cooper or that Wolf Blitzer guy,
Wolf Blitzer sucks.
Yeah, they all just seem fake and like, you know.
I feel so sorry for Wolf Blitzer because I feel like his whole life he wanted to be like a Tom Brokaw.
But you
he just can't do it.
He doesn't have that voice.
He doesn't have the gravitas.
Yeah. But I feel like, but he's doing an excellent job of covering this whole administration and saying the things that we all are thinking, and and asking the right questions, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, Anderson Cooper's doing a good job too. Don Lemon, he just keeps stumbling over himself. He keeps doing stupid things, but for the most part,
even Fox News is starting.
Well, Shep Smith.
Yeah, are actually asking some right questions. Like you kind of.
One thing people don't understand about Fox News is that after 8 o'clock, they no longer are forced to stick to the truth.
Oh shit! I didn't know that.
Because the Fox News starts broadcasting from what's they're called their infotainment system. Back in the day, there's this documentary called Outfoxed, and it explains how basically Fox News sued for the right to lie by claiming that their shows were not news,
right?
They were entertainment. So because they claimed that and won that, that's how you got Bill O'Reilly. That's how you got Sean Hannity. That's how you got.
This is a dangerous thing to play with, though.
I don't know if you guys recall, but people are saying, "Oh, liberals acting crazy. They want to impeach. They want to impeach Trump." There was a lot of this mentality being pushed, but for 4 years, I think maybe 4 years between the middle of Obama's first term and the middle of Obama's second term, Glenn Beck, was on Fox News, pontificating to 6 million people every day
to impeach Obama.
No, not just to impeach Obama. How he's literally like
Hitler.
Like Hitler, he could possibly be. It's not. We don't know, but he could possibly be the son of Satan.
Yeah, it was that kind of stuff. Remember, he was making so many connections.
Well, he was born on this day and on that day, and if you add the things together, you get 666. And guys, you know what that means.
Yeah,
bad news.
Pretty nuts, actually. We forgot about him, but he
somehow stopped taking his medication. And he started getting.
He started his own show, right? Where the Tommy Lee.
The Blaze.
Yeah, the Blaze.
Yeah, Tommy Lahren.
Tommy Lahren. She's no longer.
Yeah,
there.
You heard what happened to her? It's pretty interesting.
Well, she went on her show every day.
You guys know who Tommy? She's really hot too.
She went on her show every day talking about how the left wing wants you to shut up. The left wing they don't let you speak your mind. So she goes on The View and says,
speaks her mind.
Yeah, speaks her mind, and she gets fired.
Yeah. So she's like
permanently banned. Look at that, permanently banned.
So what she said on The View was they asked her about abortion, right? I think. Yeah. And then they asked her, "What's your take on that?" She's like, I'm not gonna be a hypocrite. If I believe in small government, then it's not my say that government should have a say in people having abortion. So I don't agree with government saying that.
But we gotta be careful with these people because these people don't really believe what they say. Tommy Lahren had said so many times about that were anti-abortion before she decided to come out of the closet.
Right, but
with her pro-choice stance.
Is it one that maybe she did feel that way and now her heart has changed?
No,
because
these people know.
It's a show.
And I'm so sorry to the people who constantly get offended by left-wing people calling them stupid, but she knew how to play into their psychology, make them. I mean, she sits there like she's a little mini Hitler. You know, like these people are crazy and blah blah blah. And can you believe this fucking shit? And I mean, she doesn't swear like I am, but she because actually conservatives don't swear and they repress that. Yeah, they like to express this type of anger like super. Like, at least we're proper. We don't swear like Snoop Dogg, but we hate illegals. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we're, we don't like whores, but we're chaste. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right. But what's funny going back to her thing? So when she did come out and say that she's for small government and so forth, so she doesn't feel like they should interfere with abortion. As soon as she said that, they suspended her, and now it looks like
she's permanently banned.
So they cut her off.
Either.
Yeah, which is crazy. So like you can't really speak your mind in their thing, which is hilarious. But someone also made a good. I was reading comments when she was on Real Time with Bill Maher. They said like when she's not fully in her show, it looks like when she has all these facts or her facts and she's talking, she looks like she's well rehearsed and prepped for this information. But when she was in Real Time with Bill Maher, she couldn't answer like basic questions. It was just it was very general answers compared to how she really is on her show. So,
Well, yeah, they're all. I mean, I don't even know if Bill O'Reilly believes what he believes.
Yeah.
You know,
He
I don't know.
definitely does not believe what he believes. I mean, that's
Dude,
a lot of it's just a show, right? Like,
I
that's
think
what
what's
keep
very
thinking.
interesting, and it stopped because I think people are starting to think, okay, the America's not that bad. But
Yeah.
there was, even Fox News, there was a panic moment, I think, after the election where Bill O'Reilly and everybody was like, no, guys, no, this is not normal. Like, Trump is lying and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know if you saw, but there's still backlash against Fox News because every now and then they'll fact check the president. And they can't,
and they can't
the
stand
viewership
that.
can't stand it.
Yeah,
You know,
they
just
can't stand turning against your own party.
Well,
But-
his followers explain his lying by saying he's playing what they say 4D chess.
Yeah.
That he's playing the media and that he lies on
Always.
purpose. So so he has reason behind his lies, and they think that's okay.
And I was watching, you know how like YouTube recommends videos and stuff.
Mhm.
There's Jon Stewart debate versus O'Reilly from 2012. I just recently watched that. One of the funniest shit ever, and so goddamn good. But Bill O'Reilly just showed you how stupid he is, and Jon Stewart just destroys him in so many levels. It's just really fun to watch. I'll share it with you guys.
Yeah. No,
With
I
Bill
think I
O'Reilly-
watched that. I love that stuff.
Bill O'Reilly with Jon Stewart.
Yeah, they
He
had
makes Jon Stewart look stupid.
No.
Jon Stewart destroys Bill O'Reilly.
Thank God.
Because I think it was this is around the time where Obama was getting elected again, so they were having a mock debate.
Yeah.
So forth.
Pay-per-viewed it, actually.
Yeah, so it was
Never
pretty.
What?
You watched it?
I know,
It
I
was
never
on-
watched it.
It was on pay-per-view
Yeah, or something like that.
after UFC. Bill O'Reilly versus.
But it's really entertaining, and it just shows you how the right conservative thinks. So any, questions were asked that were right wing, and the way he goes and answers it, and Jon Stewart comes and just what's that? The strong man hold? What's that thing?
He's strongman. He strongman like argument.
Yeah,
and
just
then-
destroys him at so many levels, and it's just really entertaining to watch. And also really educational. I felt too, like understanding the two different sides and seeing a better. I let the ideas talk and let the best idea win. And
So now that it used to be a spectator sport, like what you were saying, but
Yeah.
now it looks like since Trump has been elected, and not even since Trump has been elected, a lot of what Bernie did, we haven't talked anything about what Bernie did, because Bernie did the exact same thing on the left, except he was
colluded
sadly
against.
Yeah, he was sadly beaten down by the collusion of the DNC and the Clinton campaign. People want to say, "Oh, well, no." I mean, that was a big deal. We
Yeah.
lost to Trump.
yeah.
People need to get. Everyone's like, "Oh, Armand, is it that big of a deal?" I'm like, 200 people are dead.
Yeah.
Right now. Yes, it was a big
adds
deal.
up.
It's up to 300 now.
I mean,
Is it?
Yeah, I was just reading something about that.
Jesus, dude.
Oh, they did like a tally in the.
This is
number
depressing,
now.
man.
and this is gonna happen weekly? That they were
God
gonna do
knows.
a new drone strike.
Yeah.
I think the reason the left lost is because they got behind Hillary. They gave up their own principles, and that's what happens.
Actually, I gotta push back on that. I mean, I'm not a Hillary supporter or a Obama, or even though I didn't vote for Obama because I at the time was not a liberal Democrat, and I don't mean that as a Democrat. I mean that I was not.
Like democracy, you weren't into liberal democracy.
I know I was not. I was more said, okay, liberal democracy is done. Like look at the how many people are in poverty. Look at how much no one cares about. Look at the global warming. It's literally killing the planet. How could this be the system that's going to take us into the future?
Right.
Liberal democracy. It looked like it was falling apart. I mean, it technically with the election of Trump kind of proves that it was falling apart
yeah.
everywhere.
That's a good point.
Unless you go to Germany or something, their liberal institutions are very, very,
There's a-
very strong.
There's a drone strike that happened today, March
Oh, this is
26th,
2000?
No, it's 2008. Oh no, I'm sorry. This was.
No, this is just today.
Oh, I see.
in Pakistan,
Islamabad. Shit.
Islamabad, in the capital of Pakistan.
Wow, I didn't even know they could do drone strikes there.
Oh, we do a lot in Pakistan.
Well, Islamabad is actually a military stronghold for Pakistan, so I don't think they would allow that. That's a big deal, or they wouldn't be happy with that for sure.
Are you
In-
sure this is today?
Paktika. Hold on, yeah.
looks like a story about something that happened back.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. Well, I'm not sure now, but the story's new.
But either way, we do have drone strikes in Pakistan.
Yeah, I know Waziristan and the northern provinces, but not in Islamabad. I think that's south of that.
Do you think there is a good system currently out?
I mean, I think it's liberal democracy.
It is.
That's
You-
I'm back to
yeah.
thinking that okay,
So
maybe the push for okay. I don't know if you guys are aware of the Falkland Island incident.
no.
Argentina had their own "Let's make Argentina great again" moment back Well, actually, what happened was that the people with the social.
It's like a few years ago you're talking about?
No, this is like the
1982.
60s.
Okay.
I'm sorry. The story from him is from 1982, I guess.
This is what?
I could be wrong. I think it's 1982.
Oh, there you go. There you go. The Argentine invasions of the Falklands. So what happened was, as far as I remember, is a socialist ran for the government, and he won. But the military was like, hell no.
Mm-hmm.
So they bombed the palace and took power
Are you serious?
violently. Very serious.
Holy shit.
And then not only did they do that, they were like, hey, let's take our islands back from the UK.
Damn.
So stupid Argentina.
I like that voice he did.
Stupid Argentina Trump decided, let's go invade the UK.
Like
Can you
what?
do the rest of the podcast
And I
like
want
that?
you I just want you to scroll down to look at the casualties of this war.
So you're saying like UK? They went at UK or like an island at
It
UK?
should be actually in the.
it was right on the right side.
Yeah, it was on the
up
right
top.
side
Oh,
at the
okay, it
top.
was up there.
Yeah, this is the Falkland. Maybe you might have to go to the actual war. But yeah, one killed on the British side.
Are you serious? So they fought against UK and lost, obviously.
The
right?
UK invaded. This is what Trump, Argentine Trump's. I forgot his name, but he was like, "Oh, if we go invade the Falkland Islands, UK's not going to get mad. They're just going to let us have it." The problem is that the Falkland Islands didn't even identify with Argentinians at this point because they took it so many years ago.
Right. So who has it now? Is it still the UK?
Well, I believe it's still in the UK's control. Yeah. So,
Yeah, it is.
So after they invaded, I mean, the UK came with their armada within like 5 days
Damn.
and took like 1,700 POWs, I believe.
Holy crap.
I don't know if that's the biggest fight right there, but they.
How many POWs, sorry?
I believe it was like 1,700.
Oh my, how do you take that many?
Well, they didn't want to just annihilate them. I mean, they did kill a lot, but they didn't want to.
So then they took this guy down.
So if you go to the war, yeah, click the war tab. Go down one. It was right there. Yeah, click the Falkland Islands War show. Click show.
Oh, right here. Okay. It just goes further.
Well, actually,
more and more links.
Just click the Falklands War.
Oh,
Let's see if it takes you to the main. There we go. Now scroll down.
let's see if they show losses.
There you go. This is the actual
Oh,
battles.
snap. Wait, that guy's name is War Cabinet? That's a commander's
Oh, there we
name?
go.
Oh, never mind.
That's got all the numbers right here.
So 11,000. I'm sorry, not 7,000. It's not 17,000.
Holy shit, that was a lot more people than the last page.
Well, this is the actual. That was the invasion.
Oh, okay, this is the actual war.
This is the whole war now combined together. So,
So-
as you can see, this is pretty one-sided.
Could you?
That was. we
you-
thought the UK lost one person. Sorry, Hausman, continue.
Yeah, I was just wondering what is a liberal democracy exactly, or what do you think of it as?
Well, so I like to go with the history. I don't know if you guys are aware, but liberal democracy didn't just it wasn't just like a good idea, and people were like, all right. What happened was that the king in London wanted to keep collecting taxes, and he had to go through the aristocracy or the oligarchs because they had more repertoire within their neighborhoods.
Okay.
So the king couldn't just walk into neighborhoods with tax collectors and be like, "Give me your money." People would have been like, "Fuck you." So what the king would do was he would reach out to the business owners of the communities of the feudal lands or whatever at the time, and he would ask them who had relationships with the peoples to collect the taxes. Well, eventually there was enough of these collectors that they said, you know what? We should have some power. We want to have some say about this is money from my neighborhood. We want to know what you're doing with it because you're just seemingly just fighting wars for no reason. Now, one of the main tenets of liberalism, or what we now call conservatism, is to be anti-war. Liberalism means free markets, laissez-faire economy, separation of church and state, freedom of speech. These ideas weren't like self-evident at the time, like it says in our document. So they eventually told the king, like, no, we're not going to collect taxes for you. And by the way, we're really rich and we can raise an army.
Right.
So they did. And they took on the king and beat him. And so after they finally beat, I believe his name was Charles I.
I would hate to be that one.
Yeah, they beheaded that guy.
Oh my God.
And his kid, I think.
Wow.
So you don't want to, it's Trump and all these people are very lucky we live in a liberal democracy. Because back in the day, liberals weren't too kind to monarchs.
Yeah.
They would tend to behead them.
I mean, we're brutal in general back,
So that's
back
how
in
it
the day.
started. I believe 50,000 people had to die just for the first parliament to
Yeah.
be incorporated.
And you think about that in
And then
general.
it took like another 5, 50, 60 years for it to even become effective.
How many people have given their lives just for us to even be here and just
And then for
just
Trump to
speak?
just shit on them
Yeah.
every day with a tweet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's just depressing when you say it like that, dude.
Because it
it's
wasn't
devastating,
just
yeah.
that was just the first fight.
Yeah.
That was just to get Parliament recognized.
Yeah.
And to actually have it and have enforcement
having-
powers, then to get a judiciary, the third branch. I mean, that was just 2 branches.
Yeah,
and
I'm
then
just
there was a
having
whole
a-
third branch that had to be added at some point. That took a whole other,
Yeah.
episodic fight. So
just
this
having
liberal
a-
democracy wasn't like somebody sat at a table and was like, oh, this sounds good.
Yeah.
It was a natural order, sort of, that progressed out of the evolution of the economy, right? Because the king had to collect taxes. This created a new group of people called the aristocrats or the oligarchs.
Right.
And now they said, hey, that's why when you say, oh, Clinton abandoned her principles. No, she didn't. The Democrats and the liberals were always for the rich. They were always for the oligarchs.
Yeah. Why is that? Just so people that don't know.
Because those were the 2 teams. It was the rule by hereditary, which is like Bush 1, Bush 2. They
Yeah.
still feel that like that's acceptable, and then of course there's the liberals who feel that no, it should be representative.
Right.
It shouldn't just be who's next.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what the
System is.
what the Democrats got into too, because they were like, oh, we don't want Clinton dynasty either. But
Yeah.
it wasn't really a dynasty, because a dynasty kind of means you hand it down to your child, and
Child, yeah.
and
rather
it's a
than
generational
spouse.
thing.
Yeah.
This is a woman and her husband.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was going that way. It's just that it was going that direction. It didn't
Could've been-
happen.
it could've
But
been her
could've-
daughter next.
Yeah, that would be step 2. Then it
Yeah.
would be step 3 would be her daughter. But we just didn't want to go to step 2.
Yeah, and it looks like that. Like I said, we don't know. We don't know if this is going to be good, because I believe that the Trump administration could be like an adrenaline shot to this classic idea of liberal democracy. And one other thing that I want to talk about liberalism too, because people keep thinking, oh, welfare is socialism, and giving property and distributing it is socialism, and healthcare to everyone is socialism. No, it's not. Okay, it was written by John Locke himself, the father of liberalism, that everyone has a right to life, liberty, and property.
Right.
Fuck the pursuit of happiness. That was added in later because they didn't want to put the property part. But the original quote is that we all are endowed with inalienable rights by our creator for life, liberty, and property. That
Yeah,
was
then
a
they changed it.
liberal idea, not a communist idea.
Yeah.
So it was even the original liberal thinkers thought that created this system that we live under, thought that everyone should have something.
These basic needs
Something.
and rights. Yeah.
And of course, it's hard to live your life if you don't have health.
Of course.
So I mean, and people say, "Oh, well, people are living longer nowadays," and it's like, okay, but if you live longer, but you've never
You're
even
suffering.
had one trip, for example.
Yeah.
Like I remember the first time I came down for my first successful shroom trip, I cried because I was like, how many people died before they even experienced something like
this, yeah.
where I can look at my hand and see it like in 4D chess
Yeah.
or whatever, that I can
Yeah.
see it so clearly. People say, oh, look at that guy, he's so high staring at his hand. It's because you don't look at it.
Yeah. I've done that once too. You're looking at it and you're just like, this is a part of me.
Not only are you looking at it and thinking you're a part of me, that you're thinking this is the most elegant and beautiful
thing there
design thing I've ever seen in my life. You know what I'm saying? And not only that, holy shit, there's this whole, existence around me.
Yeah, and
that-
then you're connected to it all.
and I'm still only working on my hand.
Yeah.
I'm trying to just process. I don't know if you guys remember as a child, but I don't know if it happened to everybody, but I remember looking in the mirror being like, how am I moving my hand? Like, I'm not thinking about it. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
just
saying?
Simon said.
So when the
feelings,
first time
right?
you trip, that sort of happens again.
Yeah.
You're looking, you're like, how does it know one to one? Like, I'm thinking about it. Like,
But it
do I
does-
think
yeah.
about it first, or does it happen?
Is there a lag? And if there is a lag, I mean, obviously there has to,
There
right?
it has no. Actually,
Yeah.
no.
There's
right?
no seconds. Like, we can't
and
pick it up.
You can fact check this, but I heard that we react to things before they happen.
No, I
Yeah,
think
but there's a lag to that
there.
too.
So like, if I move my fingers and toes at the same time, which one happens first? Just logically, you would think that your nerves are going to your finger versus to your toes. There's a
I
longer
meant
travel.
specifically that, like, when something is happening, like if you're about to give me bad news,
Mm-hmm.
I know it's bad before you tell me. Like, that's an observable.
But that would be
know.
instincts, I think, right?
Well, that would also
Yeah.
be body language. You
Yeah.
could detect it because a lot of communication is body language. It
Right.
could be like somebody when they give bad news. It could be a way they act. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Actually, that's an evolutionary thing that you're talking about. Because, like, thousands of years ago, when we were still, like, ape-like,
Yeah.
we were conditioned in a way to see body language and be like, all right, this is like a threat. so I gotta be ready for it. So he's kind of right in a way. Yeah, you're ready. Your mind can perceive body language and react to it.
This is why people vote for Trump.
Yeah, he's got
Of
great
course.
body language.
Got great
he's
body
very
language.
persuasive.
People don't care about their conscious intellectual world. They say
Yeah.
that makes me feel good.
And
Yeah,
not
it makes
much
them
time
feel
to look at
safe. Yeah, it makes them feel safe. He doesn't obviously come off as a normal politician. It's not the same
When I
bullshit.
saw
that-
him at the debates versus Clinton, I was like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Because he's sitting there saying, you know, well, like, yeah, I'm a liar, but I'm a liar. And, you know, if I lie, it's all right. And she's like, I will always tell the truth. And it's like, no, you won't.
Yeah.
You know, you haven't even done it in this campaign. This guy's literally saying, I'm a liar. And you can look this up. He says on the campaign trail, sometimes I'll lie to you.
I mean, as a job as a president, we can expect that they need to lie. You know, there's classified information, and there's only so much things we should know as a
And that's
a
what I
country.
learned too about this election. You know, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, well," a lot of people were laughing at the intelligence communities all these years. You know, let's just take it to the serious conspiracy level. Oh, you know, they did 9/11 and they attacked they killed JFK.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are now not a lot of people, very actually small sliver of people in the conspiratorial world who you could kind of say maybe grew up out of it are saying, okay, well, yeah, we definitely used 9/11, whether it was a conspiracy or not, to go into Iraq. But what if we didn't? Let's imagine we didn't go into Iraq in 2003, and we now know that Russia is making major moves
Yeah.
in the middle. What would happen?
What would we do?
What would we? And remember, Russia's economy is 90% oil. So what do we do letting Russia? And remember, they went into Afghanistan. We just got lucky they lost. Well, no, we didn't get lucky. We funded
Taliban.
the Taliban. But people say, oh, look at that. We're so evil. I mean, are we?
Yeah.
Because what if we didn't?
What are the consequences of not
What are
intervening?
of unchecked Russo, Iran, and China? And I'm Persian, and I still don't know if I want a Russian, China, Iranian superstate forming.
Yeah, it doesn't sound.
Because I saw
too
a lot
low.
of liberals are posting articles like, oh, you know, this Russia crap is just the deep state trying to drum up war against Russia because they want to scare you.
I think the last thing anyone needs is a war with Russia.
Well-
That's just terrifying, you know, because that is saying because they are a big, powerful country.
No, it's very
And-
terrifying.
Uh-huh.
But the problem is that it looks like they are indeed hostile.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah.
Okay, liberal. You know, what do we do? Well, we know now for sure
Yeah.
Russia is hostile.
Yeah.
So-
What are we willing to do? Are we willing to look the other eye and say we don't want to get involved and let them
Well, if we do what
continue
the
their shit?
pacifist liberal wants, we have to let China take the South Island Sea.
Yeah.
We have to let Korea expand north and take whatever the hell it wants. We have to let Iran, I guess. I mean, Iran's not really doing anything. That's the problem with Iran. They apparently want to make good relations with America,
Right.
but Trump is not going to allow that now. And then, Russia clearly is out there making major
Moves
moves.
right. They're putting their pawns in play, and you know, even the whole thing with Ukraine, like even like the United Nations acts, and I think when they took over, what's that a city or whatever, the borders that they cross, and they're now not giving them back, right? I think they still taking over, right?
I'm sorry.
When Russia, part of Ukraine, like the little border fight,
Crimea.
Crimea, there we
Crimea
go.
or whatever.
Yeah, so they're still there, right? And I don't think
that's
they're
illegal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they're not giving it back either. Or
And then you
leaving.
had Trump
So what do we do? Like,
forgiving them for it.
yeah. So what do we do? Do we just stay idle and say, okay, that's okay? We don't want to fight that with force. How do you fight it with? Then you can obviously put sanctions on them, and you know, have the whole world or United Nations put sanctions on them and not trade, because that's one thing that will hurt them over time.
That was the liberal answers. Put sanctions on them.
Yeah.
Let them squabble and have them come back to us.
Yeah.
But that part of Ukraine was kind of Russia before, right? And
Well, it was Soviet Union.
Yeah, a lot of those people spoke Russian. They identified with Russian culture. So the takeover wasn't like from some point. Some people on that side of Ukraine actually like Russia.
Are okay with it.
Yeah, so there is that factor in there.
I don't think it's really a factor because these people are, you know, for example, Britain didn't want to be in the UK, so they took care of that in a very dignified. They voted, they got rid of the EU off their back, and so now they're just the UK again, I guess.
Right.
And Scotland may or may not decide to do their own vote. But now, if Scotland decided to invade the UK and be like, yo, we're gonna be free now.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
I don't think anyone would say, oh, that's they got a point there. All those people they speak, they speak Scottish, and they want to be Scotland. I don't think anybody would really say that.
Yeah.
And I think we should give because I don't think imagine if Illinois. Have you seen the map of Illinois?
It's huge.
No, I'm talking about the political map.
Like
Oh,
red,
no.
It's,
Oh, yeah,
it's
yeah.
all blue over here and
Yeah.
red like everywhere else.
The whole, it's all
We
red.
wouldn't feel that way.
Yeah.
We wouldn't feel that way if
Yeah.
Republicans came in here and said, "Oh, you know what? Half of this place is Republican, and we're just gonna cut you off,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be ours."
Yeah.
We would be like, "Okay, no,"
Yeah.
like that would not. So I'm sure a lot of people in Crimea feel that way too, despite the fact that maybe
There are
half
some
or more-
deceptions, yeah.
Yes,
that
from
feel the
what
other
I
way.
understand, what Putin did was like a strategic thing. I think he basically supported an uprising there, and then it got crazy there, and then he took over. He's like, "I'll take care of it," and then they
Yeah, he
just
sent in his
annexed it.
own troops. He
So
sent in his own troops.
So he's very smart too. He kind of planned it out.
Well, he
It's
is the
the
former
deny.
director of the KGB.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah,
is
I mean,
where
his intelligence has to be
At another
he
level.
has to be very smart.
this is
He
where
can't-
the Bushes, I think, are devastated. Because
Bushes?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
because this man literally went to war with George H.W. Bush. It was KGB versus CIA throughout the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that was George H.W. Bush's position, to constantly be the anti-Putin throughout his entire career. And now there's a pro-Putin president
Yeah.
in power. That is,
And Republicans have become pro-Russia, which is really interesting.
well, not that much. I mean, they're showing the increase.
They said it was 37%.
Yeah, it's 30. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot now.
At what point, like,
I'm hoping that's skewed, because I heard just to give us some fresh air here, that when they do those quizzes now, people aren't being honest about if they're Republican or not.
So like everybody's lying, including the president.
Well, people say, "Are you Republican?" and they're like, "No," and so they move on. They say, "Are you Republican?" and really what they're thinking is, "Oh, I'm a Trump supporter."
yeah.
So they say yes, and then, "Are you for Putin?" Yes, so it's like,
Oh.
I see.
it's because like there's another poll that says 80% of the Republican Party still support the president, and it's just like a lot of people are saying that can't possibly be true. Because,
Right.
like, he's got an approval rating on other things of 32%. So how could it be possible?
So disinformation, just can't trust any information. We come back to that.
Well, I think that's very important, right? I think now let's maybe get this back to the scope of your guys' shows. I think a lot of the spiritual leaders and the people who got high in the past were very, very strict about concern your life with yourself. I mean, obviously care for those who are suffering, have compassion, but you're not going to learn other people's lessons. It's great that we read all these articles, but we're not learning any wisdom from consuming. I mean, I think I have more appreciation for liberal democracy now, for example, but that doesn't give me any wisdom about how to treat people in my life or
Right.
how to speak to people.
How to just be nice to one another.
Exactly.
Right?
Because like you guys are saying, the main thing, despite all these things sound important, Russia,
Yeah.
this, what's really important is what Hasban was saying, was like, how do we get all of us talking again?
Yeah. On the same level or same page, if you will.
And about
And-
things that aren't all the time political too. Like how do
Yeah.
we talk about getting high? Because that's a topic that people don't take seriously, and it's probably how we evolved. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Right. So like, what's the guy's name? I always forget that. He's all about Egypt, saying that it's 10,000 years ago. Hancock.
I forget his name.
Hancock.
Graham
Yeah,
Hancock.
Graham Hancock. Yeah. I love his line the best. Like he was on Joe Rogan like a few years ago, and he talks about like like that whole legalization of weed. It's just that the government has the keys to our conscience. That's pretty much what it is. That's how much freedom.
Taking it too. Is that Joe Rogan? You're saying that?
No,
Graham Hancock.
Graham
Oh.
Hancock. Because I
I don't think the government knows that, though. To be clear,
no, but I mean, think about it.
But he is right. They
Yeah.
are doing it.
So they're telling you your conscience doesn't have it. If you explore this drug and you explore your conscience with this drug, we're gonna throw you in a jail. So they, in a sense, have a key.
I think we all need to remember that Nixon's attorney general had a daughter who took LSD and jumped out a window and killed herself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like people were like, "Oh my God, LSD's opening people's minds."
Yeah,
There
obviously.
was genuine deaths happening.
Yeah.
At the time.
Drugs. Every drug affects everyone differently, right? So that's something that you have a profound experience. Someone else could suffer. Could have traumatic experience with it. There's no denying that. So there's always obviously safety is always a
But I think the
concern.
conspiracy group likes to really say, "Oh, the government somehow knows what LSD does to you," and
Yeah.
they're trying to stop it. I really don't believe the government knows. I mean,
Not that
maybe
much.
elements of the CIA know. But
Yeah.
it looks like even they.
Not elements. I mean, I think they know. I mean, they
I think
have
that-
to know. I mean, the shit they've done on it. I mean, it's a whole project. They have to know what the hell it is, like really
Yeah,
well.
and
They try to use it as
a weapon.
Exactly.
But yeah, well then I think a smart person would understand right away that giving people LSD opens their minds.
Yeah,
And it
well,
took
they were
them
trying to
quite a
control
long
it. Yeah.
time. It took them quite a long time to really learn that. And
Right.
finally they stopped and they were like, okay. Because every time they kept doing one of these experiments, they kept creating a Bob Dylan or creating a Ken Kesey who
Right.
wrote One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And then he took a bus and started giving everyone LSD.
Right.
And I'm sure the CIA didn't want that, you know,
Yeah.
and that happened, you know. And I'm sure the CIA didn't want even certain technological advancements to happen as a result of
Right.
because Apple is here, according to Steve Jobs, because he took LSD. So, I mean, imagine the internet. Can you imagine if we didn't have the internet?
I mean, I think all great art and stuff like that has some sort of influence of drugs in it, right? And like you, to your point, Steve Jobs and
Well, not always.
Not always, no.
I mean, there are people that meditate and
Right.
do
Yeah.
other things, and they can get to that same. So drugs, like I think we talk about all the time, it's like a
I
shortcut.
didn't correct him
Yeah.
though because he said chemical. Did you say chemical? Or
No, I didn't
drugs?
say chemical.
Because chemical is the more accurate way.
yeah.
If you said, because even if you're meditating, you're releasing oxytocin and
in your
serotonin,
brain, yeah.
and those chemicals bridge, I
Yeah.
guess, your brain's receptors, and you're having a longer, larger conversation with yourself. Sort
Yeah.
of.
So it kind of goes back to that consciousness. We're always trying to change consciousness. If you take a drug, you change your consciousness and you get a new idea of it. If you meditate, and what he's saying is actually right, you get those same chemical releases. I think it's dopamine,
Norepinephrine.
Yeah, norepinephrine, oxytocin.
Right.
There's like a mix. Now they know it. So they know how like LSD and like meditation, how they're linked. It's through those chemicals.
And what's to you, I also want to talk about how you said like that one girl that had LSD and then jumped off, so they probably said, "Oh, this thing is
Well,
crazy."
this was the personal experience of somebody who was high up at the administration. at
Yeah,
the
and
time.
then now they can influence the laws to cater for
And
what
it
they
wasn't even
personally.
Nixon's White House that made it illegal. It was LBJ's.
Okay,
So that's important to understand too. It was a liberal.
right. But the connection that I was trying to make is like, you know, how people also die in car accidents, but we don't ban cars. You know what I mean?
I think that's obviously. I mean, that's true, but if we banned cars, the economy would collapse, right? So,
Right.
So it's not one-to-one comparison. I think alcohol, obviously, I think serves your argument much better. 'Cause
Right.
That's killing like 50,000 people a year. I think cigarettes kill like 440,000
Thousand people a year.
people
Yeah.
a year.
So how can we say no to one? So yeah,
And
how do we
legal
just?
drugs, I think, is another 200,000 people
Yeah.
a year.
But also, I was listening to Bill Hicks yesterday, and that's what he was talking about. He was like, okay, so that does happen. Somebody does jump off a building, and they kill themselves. So there is some risk, right? So he's saying, so the news doesn't really report on the truth because the news is not talking about all the time that someone took LSD and created like an amazing song or did something, you know, positive.
That's not news. Yeah.
So that's not really news then. They just tell you the negative thing. So they actually have like an agenda.
No, because the news, sadly, and they might have. Of course, the news has agendas. I don't know if they have specifically a drug agenda, but they always cover the negative things, whether it's drug users
Yeah.
or it's police. Right? They
'Cause
always cover the negative interaction
Because
with the cop.
that's what gets more.
How many interactions do police have? I think a single police officer has maybe 100 interactions a day.
Probably, yeah.
And then multiply that by the 12,000 police officers in Chicago, which is like nothing.
yeah.
I mean, 12,000 police officers trying to keep order for 3 million people, let alone the 7 million in the Chicago metropolitan area. That's obviously there's going to be problems.
Yeah.
But
It just comes to probability, right? You just look at basic math and statistics. There's odds for everything.
especially when you have
yeah.
Republicans who don't believe in funding the government, so you have a bunch of cops who are untrained,
Yeah, how do you run that shit then, right? It's
and the unions sadly don't give a crap about their own cops because they put the brand newest ones in the worst neighborhoods. So of course it's always a young person you never see an old. I mean, sometimes you do, but it's never. It's
the
usually a
experienced
young,
cop, yeah.
hot-headed cop who acts. And to be fair to the cops, dude, one cop got fired the other day because some shitty teenager told him to go back to Mexico.
And he got fired for that?
So imagine all day. Yeah, no. The cop didn't get fired. The cop started beating his ass, and he got fired for beating his ass.
Yeah.
But I'm so against police brutality. But if I'm literally all day dealing with death,
Agree.
You get
dealing
numb.
with fighting, dealing
get
with
numb
people
with that
talking about it, and then all of a sudden some teenage bullshitter,
Just pokes at you, right?
pokes at the right spot at the right time.
That one nerve that he pinches. Like, I mean, you've been perfect for 2-3 years.
And it's funny too because the reason I'm not mad at this cop so much is because I can empathize a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like
We all are human.
I can never
you know?
really empathize when I see a cop shooting somebody though. I'm always like, they would say, "Oh, well, I was scared." And I was like, "Yeah, it's your job. You know, your job
Yeah.
is to be kind of scared."
But then I mean, it's also your job not to get pissed off at the guy who said
Right,
go back to
right.
Mexico. So
That's
a
absolutely
parallel,
true.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying it's right. He should have got fired. I'm just saying like I can feel a little bit
Yeah.
for
Hey.
the cops.
Actually, I can feel more for the cop that had to shoot the guy because he was afraid for his life. The other guy's just pissed off.
I have to. I mean, I guess, but I feel like when you use lethal force, you have to have more responsibility. I mean, if you use you could kill somebody punching them, and that cop shouldn't have done it at all. But it's the interesting situation where you're like you believe that you're defending these people. If you're a cop, you believe you protect and serve,
Right.
and then you just all day you turn on the news.
Yeah.
Fuck this cop. Fuck that cop. Here's a kid telling me to go back to Mexico. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying every cop should actually have an hour of meditation before they go on duty
Yeah.
or
I was
something
just
like
thinking
that.
about meditation.
Really, they have to like think about what like happened that day.
No, think.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are human.
Yeah.
You've let unless you do your habit or whatever, you get wound up. And cops are getting wound up to a degree that none of us can really
It's the hardest job in the world. man.
imagine. I don't know if it's the hardest job in the
And
world,
that-
but
it's more than the hardest job in the world. Imagine going, like every day you're experiencing some numbing shit that you have to, you see evil things, you see the wrong things, you put in bad situations, and
yeah, people don't
Yeah.
understand that a lot of cops that they walk in on people
It is-
dead. You know, what I mean?
yeah.
They have to like clean up bodies. They
or
have to, like,
even
you
when
know.
you're going to a house and they're saying someone calls in, or there's a kid walking around with a gun, so now your life's at risk going to that point. It is a dangerous job, like you have no idea that you go into this place, you're gonna come back alive, you're gonna see your wife, you're gonna see your kids. It is, to me, one of the hardest jobs in the world, and the most complicated job, because you're trying to be ethical as possible, and you're also trying to protect yourself. You're also trying to protect others around you in the community. So it's like there's so many variables and consequences in play that you have to factor in.
Exactly. So many variables, so many variables, so many variables. And the reason I'm saying that 3 times is because a lot of what I keep responding to in this conversation is, oh, these people have an agenda and they're trying to do this, and these people have that agenda and they're trying to keep our gold from our consciousness, and so many people are doing this and so many people are doing
Right.
that. But you just kind of undermine that entire philosophy by saying there's too many variables.
Right.
Who can really sit there and act? I mean, let's say the Illuminati really exists.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say it's true. It's absolutely true. One,
Right.
why isn't there a competing cabal?
Is
Why
it-
isn't there another Illuminati that's competing with
competing
that
for
Illuminati?
that? Right.
There's no competition. They have a monopoly. Everybody knows that.
Well, I mean that's a conspiracy. When
Yeah.
I think that's silly.
That's a good question. Yeah, why isn't there another?
I mean, there is.
Illuminati?
There clearly is. There's this Russian game going on. There's a
Yeah.
CIA game going on. There's a
But the-
DEA game going
The
on.
Illuminati would just be based. Would it be worldwide, or is it just like?
Well,
Well, that's
I
the
think-
argument. I'm
I think
talking
so.
about
No
the
one's
argument.
really in control, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
No one's in control of all the variables because that's impossible.
It's
Yeah, for sure.
It's absolutely impossible. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't even think about the variables that are governing your own heartbeat.
yeah,
Manipulate your heartbeat, and then let's try to manipulate
I'm gonna get
Right.
Wim Hof over
Chicago.
here.
It's
but there are these people in play that are placing their agenda.
no. Don't get me wrong. There's people who
yeah.
think they have power.
Yeah,
There's people who are. I mean, the Trumps clearly didn't think they were going to get caught doing this
Yeah.
stuff.
No, I think you're right. It's not just one variable at play. So when we say something like there's a group of people out there trying to control our consciousness, obviously I don't think that's the only goal. That's
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I think it's one of them.
Because that
You-
group itself has to kind of get high to understand that whole perspective.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
no, yeah, I'm
And
not
the
saying.
problem is when you get high, you kind of are like, I'm with it. You
Yeah,
know?
but yeah, but-
I don't know if you saw cops in the 70s, but a lot of them were protesting with the people. They had
Yeah.
long hair, and there was a love for the poor. There was
Yeah.
a genuine let's get together. Yeah. There was like
Yeah.
this everyday people,
Yeah.
Rolling Stones. There was this mentality of I love you. Nowadays, it's like here's $1, I guess.
Yeah, but
it's like-
but going back to like the agenda thing, I don't think there's one specific group that's running that agenda. I feel like the right wing Republican, the really hardcore conservative, they do have this vision of what drugs are, because they're
Well, yeah, they all think it's heroin.
yeah, and not only, that, and also like their view on life is religion, and that's the main philosophy, and books. Right? All these guidance come from that.
I think
So they make laws. Anything against that book, shouldn't be in place. It's the devil's work or something like that, if you will. But like, who's fighting the wheat the hardest is the people on the right.
But again, they really believe it's like heroin. They think
Yeah.
that they're gonna stop us from doing drugs, and then we're gonna be more participatory into the economy and get our own
yeah.
jobs and things. They don't understand that it's possible to do drugs and then create Apple.
Yeah.
It's possible to do drugs and create Microsoft and
Yeah.
and figure out the DNA helix
Well,
double
music,
helix
the
molecule.
music industry, the movie industry, like you can do. There's a lot you can do with it, man.
And
Even
yeah.
problem solving, you know.
What were you gonna say, Z? I thought you were gonna.
I was just gonna say that I think we gotta differentiate when we're talking about control. We gotta differentiate between that and influence.
Right.
So, like the variables we're talking about, there's a lot of people with power that can influence it, but that doesn't mean that they have full control of the whole system.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, they wish they did. I mean, that's everyone's dream. You know, it's everyone's dream to control everything.
Not mine.
Well, I'm talking.
Yeah, but
Actually,
people.
it's
I guess what you're trying to say is my dream is to have a control of my life. You
Well,
know,
there's that.
You can start from this small scale and then you can take it all the way up, right?
I don't know if you guys are big fans of
Yeah.
philosophers, but Nietzsche was the one who actually moved us from Schopenhauer's "we are alive to basically to live, to survive," right? So that's our basic drive.
Right, to
That-
survive.
That all of our choices are, in a sense, influenced by this need to survive. That's what Schopenhauer said.
Mm-hmm.
But then Nietzsche came along and asked him, well, why do soldiers enlist for the army? Why do mothers starve themselves to feed their kids? Why do
That's pretty deep.
why does this happen? And in modern days, why do soldiers even jump on grenades to save their the people around them? That clearly what happened to their instinctual will to live in that moment.
Yeah.
There's something deeper happening there. And actually, he said that people have a will to power, because people want to be remembered. They want to have glory. That's why in that scene, I don't know how long it's been since you've seen the two towers of Lord of the Rings,
Mm-hmm.
but they're back in Helm's Deep. It's Aragorn and the King Rohan. And Rohan's going nuts. He's like, I've lost my kingdom and everyone's dead and it's over and just let them come in and kill everybody.
Right.
And then, Aragorn kind of snaps him out of it and he says, this is our chance to die gloriously.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's like, and,
That's cool.
and then they ride in, they get on their horses and they ride towards the door. And at that
Yeah.
exact moment, Gandalf is coming in from the east and, all this crap
Yeah.
happens and it's awesome. But
It's definitely awesome.
but it's in art, it's in literature, this idea that no, more than trying to survive, we actually will get high
Yeah.
if we know we're about to die for something
that's
good.
bigger than us.
That's bigger than us.
Yeah.
So that's where we are, I think, philosophically, at least in the academic circles. We really believe that, sadly, that's why power corrupts, and it corrupts absolutely because it's deeper than even sex and trying to survive.
Yeah.
It's this need to be,
constant control.
more than control and just to be more than what we are at every moment, which obviously is nature's
So
right.
it's-
Every being wants to be more than what they were.
So it's almost like you're saying that it's that want to live forever, even after they're gone, in a way that they're being remembered and they die a glorious death.
And that's how he explained how parents will sacrifice themselves for their children, because that's now the highest expression of what they did.
Yeah.
The legacy is now carried on through their children. If your children suck, that's why parents get so abnormally embarrassed by their kids. It becomes a neurosis.
Yeah.
It's almost like the kid's acting like a kid, and the mom's like, "Oh my God, chill out," because the woman thinks it's a reflection of her legacy, or the man thinks, well, dads seem to laugh off more
Yeah.
what their kids are doing. I mean, this is kind of
Yeah,
sexist, but I'm just typically it seems that the mother wants like a very virtuous
Yeah.
good child, and the dad's like, oh, you can
Wing it.
you can wing it a little
Yeah.
bit. I mean, but don't get your dad too mad.
Yeah.
Don't do anything against his rules, because then he gets crazy.
Yeah. There's always that one parent. It's always like that in each parent, I guess. One, but usually, like to your point, it might be the mother, and then the father's laid back. But sometimes the opposite.
So what do you guys? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But like I was just thinking this, just being a parent myself. Like I was trying to picture a situation where if I had a situation about eating and not having enough, obviously I would give it to my daughter or
Right.
before I eat it. But right there and then, I don't think that would be. I won't be thinking for a noble cause. I would be thinking.
You're not even thinking.
It's instincts that
Yeah,
I
you're
don't
not
need.
even
I'm not
thinking.
gonna eat. There's no way in hell I'm gonna eat. I'm just trying to imagine that situation in my head. It'll just be my natural instinct to give it to my child. It's not. But there is something that's deeper. Like why do we go out of that way to do that. You know, like it's really cool. I've never thought about that before.
Well, Nietzsche says it's because you wanna make sure that your kid is vital.
Yeah.
And he has its power and to go on and evolve and do what it needs to.
Yeah. So like at that moment, like my personal beliefs or values or my future no longer exist because I'm only focused on the survival of this kid. You know,
now, is it only for your kid? Now, I can only imagine this because I've never been in this situation, but I'm thinking like I'm in a jungle and I have one more person with me.
Yeah.
A stranger, could be
Just
someone
happens to be a kid.
Maybe younger than me. Could be anyone, right?
Yeah.
But I care for them for some reason because
I probably wouldn't.
Right.
I'd be like, no, dude, you gotta die.
Yeah, but if you're in that jungle and you both try to survive that whole, say, 2 weeks,
Right.
and now you're down to that last bite of food, right? And somebody needs to survive. And I think that I would give it to the other person because it would let me die in peace. Like I did something great or noble. And I think that's what I would do. Now, of course, I don't know what I would do in that situation. Maybe I do the opposite. I don't know. But what is it? Like, is it what is it that just that chemical reaction, that dopamine that I get in that last instance that makes me want to do that?
So there's two ways of thinking, right? I guess there's two. I forgot I don't know what you call this, but that's that one way of thinking to your point where you feel like, you know, you would sacrifice of food for, in your brain, a greater good. And there's other people that think that this kid or this person is weak by this person eating it. He's not going to survive in the jungle anyway. So I'm going to die tomorrow not eating this food or drinking this water. And this kid or person, whatever, is going to survive. But he's only going to survive for another day. But if I take it, I have more chances of making out of this jungle and surviving forever. So I could get out of this, you know, eventually. So some people think like that. Either way, this kid's whoever this person is, I'm the stronger person from this group. And, you know, so what would you do at that point? You rather just let both of yourselves die or just give this kid or a person another day to survive or 2 days? But if you take it, you can possibly make it out because you're the stronger, you know.
No, I'm the political head guy, so I'm always going to bring this back to like something political. But essentially, this is what's happening, right? I mean, we live in a world where we're all in a desert. Yeah. We're all in a situation where resources are running out.
Yeah.
And we have to decide how we want to, basically divide up that
allocate
last bite.
Yeah.
And, apparently if we do divide it with the kid, you get that conservative survival instinct in your mind. Like, as if you were an island, well, are these kids really worth it?
Yeah.
It
comes down to that, right?
In fact, actually, all these kids are snowflakes.
Yeah.
And they're all getting offended in college, so why send them? I mean, they should all be... I mean, that's what's happening right now. We say, oh, no, we shouldn't subsidize education. We should not subsidize healthcare. But war, oh, my God. Let's subsidize war.
Yeah. But it's beautiful how you put that. Like, the whole earth is that's that same situation that I was describing to Z. The whole earth is that at this moment. There's just resources and there's a lack of them. Now we're just, we're lucky to be in the United States where we have maybe a lot more better resources than other countries.
We have opportunity to get those resources.
It's not ours. We're taking them. So we're in a good position to survive, if you will. But it is depleting as we go forward, and then we're going to have to make these tough decisions, right? And we're already making them now.
When you say lack of resources, I always think, like, is it a lack of resources or is it a lack of people willing to do their part to produce those resources?
Overall, if you look at it in a timeline of Earth's life cycle, it is a lack of resources. That's how I'm picturing it. But it's
a both.
Yeah, there are enough resources to... I guess if we all...
There's definitely, if you want to look at it in terms of wealth, there's wealth to feed and clothe the poor maybe 100 times over.
Yeah.
But the problem is it's not all liquid wealth like that. It's and there's a lot of stupid shit going on. Like I believe Dubai imports 100 billion gallons of water maybe a day. I mean, that's probably an exaggeration, but
yeah, you're right. I read it long time ago.
And this is all while 2 billion people don't have access to clean water and stuff like that. And I hear, and a lot of people will tell you, poverty, there's only 1 billion people in poverty. And it's like, well, if 2 billion people don't have access to clean water, then I think the poverty levels are
a lot higher.
Off, or the definition of poverty is off, or something like that.
It's insane. Yeah, when you look at Dubai and the amount of wealth there, and and then I don't know, it's just sad. Like, it just gets depressing. I don't know. When
you say liquid wealth, are you just saying it like we all think of it, or are you saying that it's just paper and that it's not really producing anything and it's just sitting in the banks?
Well, I mean, when we say we have enough wealth to feed and clothe the world 100 times over. Like I hear, like Bill Hicks said it, I believe in the '94. He said something like that, and it's true. But a lot of those assets don't exist in forms of cash. But you can't just change it into clothes.
Like a car.
You know, a lot of it is exactly. It's in form of car. Most of it is tied up in markets and things
Properties
like
and
that.
stuff. Yeah.
There's like 3 or 4 levels of money, and cash is only one of those. That's
And-
only
And the
that's all-
conservative
most liquid.
argument, and it might be right, that is if you try to untangle all these liquid assets and then start producing food when we already know that a lot of our food gets thrown away,
Yeah.
you're gonna have some serious economic inflation situations.
And just waste, and also the animals you might have to kill to get that food.
And people are already upset at the amount of animals we kill already. I mean, do people not understand that if we want to feed and clothe the war, that you're gonna have to be shaving a lot more
Yeah.
animals and killing a lot more animals to do
Yeah,
that?
they say-
Not everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, it's the future. Let's be vegetarian." Like it's not.
Well, I'm not sure what the exact answer is, but I'm sure the amount of food we waste, if we were a society that tried to...
efficient.
Yeah, efficient. Yeah, I think that's the right word, actually. If we were more efficient about how we ate and how we just used our resources, I think we'd be doing a lot better. I don't know if it solved the problem completely, but I think it would make a
I
big
think
dent in it.
simple sign up, a simple. I mean, we have Uber Eats. We have systems in place to
Yeah.
move things around already.
Yeah.
And if there could just be one entrepreneur out there who said, instead of saying, "Oh, let me make money off of moving people around in their cars, let me make a non-profit app or something where I can have people, you know, volunteer their leftovers." You know, there's a lot of families make huge meals.
But then the only thing I think that stops that is getting sued or something, right? So like, let's say if you gave something and someone gets sick, so they might sue you
true.
because like so like
I'm sure there's ways out of liability
like
nowadays.
yeah that's
That's a
the
good
part that
point,
kills it
though.
because like if you go to restaurants in downtown, like I always
And you
like,
die. I mean, there's still ways to.
like there's buffets in downtown. Like when I go eat, there's like Mariano's has this insane buffet at lunchtime. It's
How many
just-
people sneeze in that?
Yeah, it's not only sneeze, but like I'm just thinking about the leftovers. Like, what do they do with this? Like,
They throw 'em
they,
away.
they,
Yeah,
they,
they
ha-
throw
they
'em
have
away.
to throw them away. Then I always used to think about why not donate it. There's so many poor people that are constantly on
Why
my.
can't you just fill all that crap you're not going to use instead of
Yeah.
in the trash bin? Put
Just
it in
give
a
it to them.
truck. Put
Yeah.
it in a cab. It probably isn't even, you know,
I think that-
whatever. And
so I think
just
that-
take it to the nearest
So it's
shelter.
one bad apple probably ruins it, right? So one person probably ate it, pretended it got sick, and then sued them and made money or something like
It's
that.
quite possible.
So because of that, then that becomes a bigger liability, right? So like the problem is then you have like shareholders and stocks and stuff like that. So how much things are you gonna do to risk those investments and stuff like that? So I feel that is part of the problem. But like there's so many food that we throw away. I think John Oliver did a special on it too. I
Yeah.
think right last year or something like that.
So, these are a lot of problems, obviously, and this might be my own personal, because I want to actually, instead of just listing problems, I want to talk about a little bit how we solve some of them before we go, because I imagine it's getting late. But I the reason I even came on this podcast is because I think one of the things that pushed me towards being aware of all this stuff was my first experience on LSD, which is what. I don't know, it sounds super, spacey, but it really made me feel connected to this life that I'm living in. You know,
Right.
like it made me all of a sudden feel like I'm inhabiting this body.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before that, I was kind of, it's hard to describe, but it was like
Now
as if
you're
I was
kind of,
not
like,
there.
awake?
Yeah.
Going through the motions.
Yeah, it was as if I was not there. I mean, I try to shy away from the whole woke metaphor.
We joke about that a lot, actually.
Yeah,
we
because
live on that.
Because whenever I would re-trip or I would take a new dose, it became very clear to me that when I came down, it was over. I'm not awake anymore, so to speak.
Yeah.
It was frustrating because you want to stay up there. At least I do. At least I did. Especially once I got to on LSD like the 6th hour mark. I wish I could stay at the 6th hour mark on LSD my whole life. That would be like perfect because I can work, I can stand, I can walk. I mean, like the 2nd hour mark and the 3rd hour mark, depending on how much I took, I'm a puddle on the floor. That's not
Yeah.
economically viable. But at the 6th hour, the 7th hour, 8th hour, I got so many connections going on in my head. I got so many ideas.
Yeah.
And I can see so many possibilities. I could see so many possible futures, I guess you could say. That's why Cuddy's always saying, I can see the future and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
That it's sad that I can't maintain that. And what Z was saying was that meditators,
Yeah.
You know, they so while tripping is a good first step, I think the second step for at least me in my life was to begin like
meditation.
serious training
Yeah.
in meditation. Yeah.
I was just listening to Sam Harris podcast on the way with the guy I can never pronounce.
Jovan Harib.
Yeah.
That's a good name.
So he was talking about how he goes on every year he goes on a 60-day retreat just to
Wow.
meditate. No phones, no books, no laptops.
I go on 10-day ones. That's
Yeah.
60 days is pretty nuts.
Yeah.
There's
So
right here in Rockford, there's a 10-day silent retreat for free.
oh shit, really?
Yeah, for free. They allow you to. It's like $300 per person, but they don't charge you.
What is it? Wait, so what was that $300 for?
Well, they feed you. They give you heat. They give you.
Oh, so you're just getting your necessary thing.
They provide all the necessities for 10 days.
Yeah.
Even the non-necessities. If you need shaving cream, they have it. I mean, they have everything. Because people forget or people donate.
Yeah.
I think the people donate a lot. Like, for example, I found out about it because of the lead singer of Weezer.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine he's donating tons of money to them.
So you go there for 10 days and you just sit there and meditate the whole time you're there?
Well, to be more clear, for the first 3 days, you're practicing on focusing on your breath.
Yeah, the way he was describing the same things, like the first thing to start is to focus on your breath.
You gotta learn focus, right?
Yeah, so you gotta learn as the breath that you're taking in and your exhale. And he's like, and when you first start doing that, your mind escapes you right away. You can only focus on that for 5 seconds at most.
Right.
So then you just train on that simple thing, and then you work your way upwards, right?
Well, at least the retreat I go to is that you're focusing on the air passing over the upper lip. And when you first begin, you don't really feel it. So they said, okay, we'll take some harder breaths. And then, okay, now you feel it.
Oh, with your nose?
Yeah, with your nose. Now you feel the air passing over your upper lip. And now go back to soft, but stay with the awareness of the passing of the breath. So it's not just focusing on your breathing. Because a lot of people are like, oh, where do I do it? My chest, my stomach. So at this retreat specifically, they're asking you to feel the continuous sensation of air. Because it's always there. It's always there's always something touching your upper lip in terms of air.
Mm-hmm.
And after about a day of practicing this, you don't just start feeling the air. You start feeling like your actual cells. You start there's a whole lot of electromagnetic
shit really
happening. Of course, your whole body is transferring.
No, I'm trying to picture that. That's insane.
So there's also cells. There's also blood vessels. There's a trillion fucking sensations happening just on your upper lip that your brain is completely filtering out.
So by doing that, you're canceling everything out from the outside world, and it's just your brain is solely focused on this.
In the same way that when you're sleeping or you're going to sleep at night and the TV's on, it just seems to keep getting louder.
Yeah.
So you keep turning it down, or when you wake up in the day, the lights are too bright.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, now imagine you close your eyes, and for 10 days or 3 days, you're just focusing. You close your eyes, the lights are dim, and you're focusing right here.
That's insane.
So you get extraordinarily sensitive. Like it's too much for a lot of people. People leave. They're like, no, this is crazy. I'm feeling like people can genuinely feel shocks in their bodies.
Damn.
They get shaky. I mean, a lot of the things that happen on trips happen to people doing just 3 days meditating on just feeling the air. And then it gets worse after this, because then they say, okay, now that you've got this extremely sharp box of sensitivity, let's move that box to the top of your head. Wait until you feel anything, perspiration, a tickle from your hair, air passing down, anything. And if you don't feel anything within a minute and a half, move on and try to feel something over here. And then kind of like basically paint your whole head from the top of the head down all the way to the tips of your toes. You're taking this box and you're just trying to feel one thing, anything. Just feel it. Okay, I felt it, move on. Feel something here. I feel it, move on. And it's hard to do this when you've never done the 3 days of practicing your breath. But if you close your eyes and you try to feel the tops of your hands or the bottoms of your feet, which are being filtered out because the bottom of your butt is just all being filtered out because we've been sitting against the chair for so long. But the second I tell you, feel your legs, your brain can all of a sudden has some. So this is what you're doing now for the next 7 days.
So is it hard? Was it hard or?
Oh my God, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. It's extraordinarily hard. Because you're also sitting up for an hour each time, and at the last 15 minutes, I mean, you want to die. Like, you want to get out of the situation. There's no. I've never wanted to get out of a situation more than being in the 55th minute of a Vipassana meditation session. because there's nothing you want to do more in the 55th mission than get the fuck up and get out.
That's the kind that Sam Harris and Yuval Noah Harari were talking about too.
Vipassana
Yeah,
or Vipassana.
But what is on the other side? That's the most interesting part. Once you get past that.
I'm sorry.
Once you get past that moment where you're like, I don't want to be anywhere. I just want to get out of
The
here.
word is equanimity. That's what you're trying to learn. You're trying to stop listening to that. Because right now, you may not realize it, but we've all compromised our statures. You're leaning back. You have your neck this way. You have your shoulders like this. It's because we don't want to hold ourselves up. I mean, I'm sitting like this because that hurts. So what you do is you practice sitting up the right way for the hour. And instead of giving in to the let's get up and instead of giving in to even just the thoughts, you shut it all off, and you practice not reacting, because that's what you're trying to conquer. You're trying to conquer your reactions.
It's crazy.
It's not really crazy when you think about it. I mean, when we walked in here, for example, a lot of us, even me, I was like, oh, I want this, I want that. If I don't have that, you get it's faster than you can think about, but that you react to things. You already know if you don't like something before you've before you've intellectualized it. You don't have to say the word chicken in your mind if you don't like chicken to know you don't like chicken. So there's hunger. You don't have to say I'm hungry. Your body kind of makes a feeling, and you add linguistics to that feeling, and you say, oh, that is hunger. So the Buddhists or the Buddhists or the Vipassana meditators are trying to teach you that no, just because you have a certain feeling doesn't necessarily mean the exact same thing that you've been habitually describing for this whole time. So the second it gets a little bit cold, you react. The second your mom tells you something, you react. So the whole goal is to now get into a shit ton of pain, essentially. Sit up, get into all this pain. In fact, get closer to the pain by getting more and more sensitive and feeling your body piece by piece, and then don't react.
So you're trying to conquer it in a sense, right? So you're trying to...
You're trying to sit there through pain and not
Is it that
react.
painful, just sitting and not moving?
I would say it was the most painful thing I've ever experienced up until that moment.
Damn, that's the first time.
Now, this kind of reminds me, so I haven't been on like a 10-day retreat or anything like that, but reminds me of a mushroom trip where we've talked about this a lot, where the mushroom trips gets so strong and you're almost clenching your fist.
Right, that's the tension.
And you're holding it back. But there's that one time where I just kind of, I'm like, whatever, I'm going to let go. And you let go. And before I let go, I'm so afraid of what's on the other side.
Right.
But once I get there, I don't even remember what I learned. But I remember being in that moment and being like, I know everything I need to know.
So imagine being trained in the art of letting go before you even take the shrooms. And that's essentially what Vipassana is. I mean, it's teaching you how to immediately register, I'm getting tense. Because for a lot of us, our brows, for example, get tense and we don't even feel that.
Yeah.
Resting bitch face, what does that come from? It comes from a lack of awareness of your eyebrows. That's literally all it is. So once you have the ability to not just feel yourself, but once you have that ability, you're also now able to manipulate those parts of your body. So, for example, someone just in the stupid little example of your eyebrows, you can become 100 million times better actor than someone who hasn't done meditation. Because now for example, like a bodybuilder, you can move your pectorals. Like Alfalfa, he can move his ears. These are all actual visual expressions of expanded awareness.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And actors, musicians, all they are people who are more in touch with their selves and their senses.
Yeah.
And are able to express that. So that's what's on the other side. A good life, hopefully. Someone who can say, oh, I learned the virtue. Because a lot of, in fact, liberal democracy, the ideas that gave birth to liberal democracy, according to Socrates, whose student Plato wrote the Republic, which is what our government is, a republic. So 500 BC, some guy wrote this idea of a republic, and he said that the reason that they got to that idea in the first place was because of how well they behaved. So that because we embodied the virtues of God, that is, for example, I see in the stream that the water takes the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
To the ground. So someone like me, now born in the 1989, I say, everybody in society, all the sophists, so to speak, as we call them, says you got to go to school, man. You gotta get a job, and and I'm like, but wait, man, there's a lot of resistance in that path. And
That's a good point. Yeah, it's beautiful.
That's not. Is that something really like a? And in fact, not only when I get my job as a doctor or a lawyer, which is what I was gonna be, because I was extraordinary. Even Hazma, my junior year, I got like 4 Fs because I had experienced my first kind of trip actually, and I was like, wow, I'm not dealing with that shit anymore. And I just kind of rejected that small system I was in. But more important than that, though, was that I was, I guess, learning how to just, what you were saying, letting go, just express without the anxiety of what is my parents going to say, and what is. I
mean, what you said right there with that whole waterfall.
Well, this is how ancient philosophers would say things.
That's just beautiful. Say, we should live our life in a way where you take the least resistant, right? So if the water is doing that, like you're right. Like it's at birth, we're just told to go in the system, and there's all these things that you got to fight your way through out of.
Oh, and that's actually what I want to say. Now that when I finally get to be a doctor or I get to be a lawyer, what's on the other side of that? Fucking corruption. Even if I wanted to be a teacher, my first year of being a teacher, I would have been marching because I'm not getting paid enough or something like that. And no offense to teachers, I understand that is messed up, but I wouldn't want to spend my first year teaching on a picket line. You know what I'm saying? Like, who would want that in their first experience of anything? No offense, obviously teachers are underappreciated. They don't get what the respect they deserve. They should be traded like ESPN athletes. Lane Tech is traded,
this teacher.
This teacher to that school. No. So now, I guess, Northside is going to have a bad year, because their teachers went to or something like that. That'd be cool, but it's not like that, sadly. And, of course, I believe teachers should strike anytime they want. I was just mentioning, like, in my own personal experience, who wants to get into the system?
To fight all your way through it, and once you finally get there, you just find out it's more of the same shit that
am I really waking kids up? If I was a teacher, am I really helping kids question the system, or am I like?
Not at all.
No, and
you're reading a script basically.
And if I'm a doctor, am I really preventing disease, or am I just curing sick people?
Yeah.
And if I was a lawyer, shit, that's horrible. I don't want to be a lawyer. There's no reason to explain why I wouldn't want to be a lawyer. There's
lawyers.
Yeah, fuck lawyers.
Yeah.
So I guess I just
until you need one. No.
I want to say one thing since we're talking about what's on the other side. For me, even though it's such a simple thing that, everything needs to grow. Right. But for me, when I had that profound thought, I hadn't thought of it that way. Like, even the idea that you're saying that knowing not to clinch, that's a learned experience, right?
You're born crying. You're born clinching. Yeah. So there's that's not something I can verbally teach you to undo.
Exactly.
That's something you learned.
Yeah.
Being abandoned, with your first feelings of abandonment when you were crying and your parents didn't come or whatever. Imagine that. Imagine you're a baby, and every time you cry, some godlike figure comes, picks you up, feeds you, gives you warmth, the most comfortable, surface ever.
Yeah.
And then one day you're crying and no one comes. Maybe your mom's busy. Yeah. Maybe she's cooking. I mean, to us it seems like, it's just a baby crying, but that baby is going through the most profound experience
of his life, right?
In his own personal history.
I've seen that with my daughter.
When they cry, they are expressing the deepest and most profound horror and terror, because people don't even realize how sensitive a baby is.
Yeah.
Like, I imagine that if people like to cover their babies and, look, he's all covered up, and then they take him outside and they don't realize, like maybe even the slightest bit of cold air touches their skin, and that might feel like a goddamn knife.
Because they never experienced that.
They never experienced it.
If it's the first time, So it's cool to see, like, when, like, the first winter of my daughter, going outside and touching snow, which is like a cool experience.
That's amazing.
Yeah, just to see a conscious experiencing snow for the first time, getting confused like crazy. She puts her hand. She takes it and like grabs a whole bunch of it. Then when you touch snow, it doesn't feel cold at first, but like that second in, like, oh shit, to just see her face as she gets shocked and like, what the hell's going on? Right. And, to your point, like, she did feel like something was probably like attacking. She was confused.
and they don't have any words to clear that up. You can't just be like, oh, it's because it's I don't know the science behind it or anything like that. Yeah, but you couldn't explain it to the kid.
Yeah, you could try
it's
your
changing
best
from a solid state, honey, to a liquid state.
It's just crystal water.
Yeah,
but that kid can touch the cold and be like, wow, it's cold, and they could cry and communicate with you.
Yeah, their only way of communication is crying, right?
And like everything is growth and learning, and you take that tenfold to everything that you guys were talking about. I mean, we were all talking about, and you take it to the political system. And for me, I try to simplify complicated things, and I'm like, what do I really want? And we always talk about it. It's human progress. It's human growth. And which side is really promoting that?
Man, to me, and I know I'm biased, but especially since I don't know if Osman told you, but I only had 2 meetings with this person, but I'm probably going to be helping this man named Benjamin Thomas Wolf run for the 5th district of Illinois.
Oh, nice.
He is taking the seat that is now, well, he will be competing against Mike Quigley, who took the seat in 2009 from Rahm Emanuel, who took the seat from Rod Blagojevich. So this is no little seat.
That's a pretty big seat.
This is a big seat, and I believe, and because you're asking which side, I've personally put my stake in this Democratic challenger from I believe he's from Kent, Ohio.
Okay.
And he signed up for, I believe, the FBI after 9/11. Mm-hmm. He became involved with national security and national intelligence. So he served as an intelligence officer and then became an advisor for national security to the FBI. Then served as a diplomat, came back to the United States, moved into Chicago, and became president of a fair housing organization, which is very important in Chicago because there's a lot of horrible housing situations happening. There's so much bullshit and the redistricting, and that's. I mean, it's gonna be a digression, but it's 10 seconds. I mean, we knocked down in Chicago those projects and put rival gang members all across the South Side inside their territories. And that's why no one.
Is this during the Olympics?
That's why we have this rampant violence happening.
Is the tie that when we were bidding for the 2016 Olympics, we tore down a lot of the projects to extend further back?
And like butter, we spread rival gangs all across the South Side. And of course, how did that turn out? Yeah. And that was a liberal policy, by the way. So, I mean, the Rahm was in power at the time. I don't know if it's technically liberal. It's probably not.
I don't think that Rahm Emanuel's like liberal. I think that he's just money.
Right. And he's against that. He's a Bernie-crat.
Okay.
So he's somebody who got inspired by Bernie Sanders. Obviously, he's fair housing. That's kind of socialist, right? And I learned about him. I thought, he's going to bring it because I believe that, I guess the first thing we got to do is reestablish what a liberal democracy even is. Because I think a lot of people hear liberal democracy and they're like, 51% wins.
Yeah.
And sadly, that's not what a liberal democracy is. A liberal democracy includes something called the republic.
Yeah.
And we all learned about that.
That's a good point, yeah.
It's not direct rule. How many people do you guys know are working all day? They don't pay attention to politics.
A lot.
That's everyone,
everybody.
right?
So
well, the rights of the minorities are very important.
Yeah, that's me right here. I'm trying harder to get more political and get into things that can affect, right here. But I got to ask you a question.
Yeah,
though.
Go ahead.
So you're talking about, putting weight behind this one guy that you believe in.
Well, it's the amount of power I have.
Right. And that's a beautiful and noble thing. Now, my question is, I always wonder that our system, the way it's made, it seems to garner towards groups and people that want power and that want to influence their one idea on the whole group.
Right.
Now, I'm wondering, is it possible for someone to get into this system and not get corrupted by it by the time they get to the top?
I think because the system has compromises to what we would call, I guess, our soul. Just to be very simple. Even when I was in school, my soul or my instinct or whatever you want to call it was like, this is wrong.
Yeah.
Clearly this is wrong. Why am I here? Why does the administration get paid so much more than the teachers? Why do the teachers feel like they're cops towards me? Why is this happening? Like, this doesn't make sense. We should all be here happy to learn about cool shit. Like, I go home, I was going home watching YouTube videos, and I was happy to learn,
Yeah.
but just not in this almost monotheistic way, right? Not that the teacher is God, but this was basically church. One person standing in the front,
Yeah.
telling all of us what to do, and if we didn't do it, we had to go to detention.
That and your future is affected directly by it, right? So
And how many detentions I have is going to be determine what colleges I go to.
Yeah, your future is
and they
directly
make
affected.
you know that. You
Yeah.
know, their whole they like their
that power, yeah.
So and then it's funny you asked that because a teacher then gets hired by this system, and even they get caught up in why didn't you do my homework? Why didn't you? Now I gotta fail you, and that's gonna affect your future. And it's like,
Yeah.
can't you have some humility here and realize that I have 7 classes?
Yeah.
Can't you have some humility here and realize that I'm in school from 8 o'clock to 3? My parents don't get out at 5, and then when I see them, we argue for 2 hours. I go to sleep and I do your bullshit homework
Yeah.
to come back and do it all again every day. And then you have no empathy for me when the one time I don't have it done, maybe because something happened in my life.
Yeah.
This is how teachers 100%
Operate.
no matter how much I loved the teacher, they would play into this. You didn't do my homework, like it was some insult towards them. When how about I just have something going on in my life, and
I think the problem is that we are a byproduct of any environment that we are. So we have a good idea and goodwill.
for his question, then, like what you were just saying, if we're a byproduct of our environment, and then we're getting in an environment that is corrupted. Unless you meditate, do yoga, or have frequent touches with the other side,
So here's a scenario, right?
it's very hard not to.
A great example is the healthcare bill that they were trying to push and pass on Friday, right?
Right.
So what was Donald Trump doing? I mean, anyone that was against it, he said, I'm not gonna pass laws or provide taxes to your counties or whatever in your districts.
Right.
So he was using his power. So if you don't vote against him, then he's gonna fuck you over or something
But he's
else.
completely misguided because the taxes all come from the states.
Right, but I think but like there are certain situations where it's like a give and take thing, right? Hey, you come
do
side
what
with
you
me,
scratch my back, I scratch yours.
yeah. So
It's all politics.
So even if you don't agree with his healthcare bill, then there's someone's threatening you to not help you with something else. So then you have to pick which sacrifice is worth more. So in a sense, like you are gonna end up doing things that you don't agree with because you don't want to lose on funding for X, Y, and Z.
But I think this is important because, like I said about the Iraq War situation, like if, for example, let's say I ran for Congress in 2005. Let's say somehow I was old enough and I ran for Congress, and I was who I was as a kid. I would have been like, we need to get out of the Iraq immediately. This war was illegal. You cheated on the election. Bush, blah, blah, blah. Get out of here. We're going to end this war. But let's say I get my office and I get my first intelligence briefing and it tells me, hey, Russia's doing this, Iran's doing that.
Yeah, if we don't intervene.
If we don't take... And remember, we didn't technically take the oil. In fact, Trump's going around saying we should have taken the oil.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't take the oil. What we did was we, again, tried that stupid... That's not stupid. It was a noble thing to try to get Islamic peoples to accept liberal democratic institutions. And sadly,
It didn't work.
like Bill Maher keeps saying every week now, apparently... According to him and a lot of right-wing people, that the Islamic religion has such a profound effect on the mind of the people that adhere to it that they don't accept liberal values, period.
Yeah.
But do you really think that's why we went there? Iraq, Afghanistan, we really went there for liberal values?
I do, because they believe that would make more money than the oil itself. They really believe that if we liberalize, for example, Iraq or Afghanistan, well, immediately the GDP of those countries are going to go up double because we're going to allow women to work.
So really, it was money, but liberalism was like a byproduct.
Well, the conservatives
Yeah,
genuinely believe liberalism is a money-making endeavor. I mean,
Because it allows everyone to work together in a sense.
the
rather
fact
than,
that they demonize the word
Free
liberal is
markets and
hilarious.
Yeah.
liberalism are kind of
They're the same thing.
Yeah, they're tied together.
Yeah.
Liberalism,
One
and
idea.
when a conservative says they're conservative, what they are conserving is the original liberalism of the United States.
Yeah.
In fact, that's why they said we're the party of Lincoln. In fact, we're so liberal, we got rid of the slaves, blah, 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 blah. That's true. That was true. They were for the expanding of markets and the expanding of individualized and the freedom of speech of slaves.
To an
At
extent.
some point,
To an extent,
they
yeah.
were. And then it stopped. And then now LBJ came in the 1960s and basically passed the Civil Rights Act, and that's how then the black community and the minority community voted Democrat since.
Yeah.
Because Nixon didn't sadly.
Now, as a person outside, kind of looking into the political system, because I'm not in it in any way,
Right.
but say as a thought experiment, so you're supporting a liberal candidate,
Right.
so you almost kind of become like a lobbyist. Not. I don't know why we term it negatively right now in the news, but there's nothing negative about it. It could be you could lobby for good ideas, right?
Well, that's why I didn't help Obama, and I am helping, and I did help a little bit. I didn't help Bernie a lot because I was under the impression that he had no chance. After following politics since 2000,
Yeah.
I was one
Came
of the
close.
I was one of the people that thought I knew he had a chance after Iowa, but
Yeah.
that was too late already. Because I thought, my God, if I had just helped Bernie
Yeah.
take Iowa, especially since I have so many friends there,
Mhm.
and I have a lot of ins. If I wanted to, he lost by 0.3% of the vote.
Yeah.
And if he would have won that, it's very likely that would have been the mass,
That he needed like
That-
a critical mass.
the critical mass that he could have actually, because he still won 22 states.
Yeah.
It was
Well, I
still
think he
down
started
the
off
line.
as like a 1%, and he went to
Yeah.
like 5%.
I still remember this till this day watching a Jon Stewart show, and they show we finally have someone that's running for a
Right.
Democratic president, and they were
He's
just
actually
they were
a
just
liberal.
scolding. Yeah, well, they were just showing how funny he looked. He had his own press conference. His hair was
He was
all over the
alone.
place.
Yeah, and he's
There
got
was
like a
nobody
old car or
behind him,
something.
and he had his like scrambled paper. He's like, I want him to just make this brief,
So when I saw the opportunity to work for now Benjamin Thomas Wolf, who's a Bernie-crat or a social
Oh,
democrat,
so that's
or
a new
something
term,
like
huh?
that.
Bernie crat.
Well, I'm
Bernie-crat.
kind of spreading it, and it gives me like you said, it gives me the ability to lobby for ideas I already agree with. I agree with the legalization of marijuana. I agree with the ending of private prisons. I agree with the ending of the drug war, and not just for marijuana.
Speaking
and
of the
all
drug
that stuff.
war, you sent me that one Facebook page. I forgot the name of it.
Oh,
but-
Tree City.
Yeah, Tree City. Are you part of that organization or what? They actually posted some very cool content. I thought, anyways.
Yeah, actually, you should all follow that page. If you get a chance, you can ask Cosmo. Tree City is one of my projects.
Three.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 3 cities.
Sorry, Tree City. It's actually a play
go on
on
my Facebook,
It's a
I'll put
play
it up.
on Tree Fitty from.
Oh, got it.
From. But I don't know. I was when I do my Facebook marketing, I tend to throw up 2 or 3 groups about specifically the same thing, and I figure out which one sticks,
Yeah.
and then that's the one I go with. And Tree City, for whatever reason, got 300 followers in like 2 days. So I was just going with that one, and yeah, I'm the one curating the content for that article. But as you guys may or may not be aware of, 2 Democratic senators on the state level introduced a bill to legalize marijuana in Illinois.
Oh yeah.
So Benjamin Thomas Wolf, the person running for Congress that I'm probably going to work for, is pushing that. And personally, and I'm with I think a group of like-minded people who believe that drug experiences are catalysts for,
Society.
I guess we could say waking up, but I don't like that metaphor specifically because I know a lot of people who've taken drugs who are not awake.
Yeah.
And,
also-
Yeah.
and also, it just implies that there's only one way to
Wake
get
up.
there. Yeah, and there's definitely more than one way, and that's proven too.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that just want to get high.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Like
then
me. No, I'm kidding.
No, that's okay too. The life is actually really fucking hard. And it's a lot harder than anyone told us.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, no, you just go to school and
Yeah.
you just get that job and then
Then
you're
you'll be
40
fine.
and you get retire and
Then you die.
You get
Well,
it.
this reality is really hard. Like, what the fuck is it? I mean, we talk about it and we can pretend like we have control of it and that we understand it. And
to
we
be
do
fair,
our best.
to be fair to the last generation though, I guess before the whole get a job and retire peacefully, it was die violently of AIDS or something. Die violently of like
a polio.
yeah, of like some horrible disease. Or,
It's a little
Yeah.
better. It's a little better.
Yeah, I mean,
So parents were just like, oh honey, you don't know what it was like.
Yeah.
Now just get a job and my grandpa died of this or that or he was in Korea or
Yeah,
like
no.
there's this just one generation ago we're talking about our ancestors and they were like, oh, he fought Hitler and he did this
Yeah.
and I'm just like, well, I dropped out of school,
Yeah.
I don't know, like there's
Yeah,
not-
I was watching this
Yeah.
interview of this really old lady, 110 years old, and they asked her the question like, "What's the most incredible change you've seen in the last 110 years?" And she said that you could just walk into a drugstore and just off the counter buy something that would cure the common cold, which killed her friends just 50, 60 years ago.
exactly the common cold, the flu kills
Yeah.
people even to this day. So
We've come a long way.
So I used to hate growing up. You kind of hate the older generation, And I really did. I was like, oh, I thought that too. Oh, they're all in a conspiracy to siphon me of my own free will and put me in a job that I can't think and think for myself. But really, they were just really excited that I could live a better life
than
they did.
The
you
people
know?
in the past.
And not only
Yeah.
than they did, but the people, their own parents who lived,
Yeah.
you know, horrible. Especially since I'm Puerto Rican and we came out from the ghettos of Humboldt Park.
Mm-hmm.
And my father and my uncle are Persian, and they came out of the theocracy of Iran.
Yeah.
So here, both my parents came from like heroic situations. Like
Yeah.
I don't know what it'd be like to leave America
Yeah.
because some impending revolution is coming, and
Sure.
I have like for example, it would be like me right now leaving the United States to go to Germany
To leave
because
Trump.
I'm afraid Trump is. I don't think Trump actually has the competence now to actually run a fascist dictatorship.
Yeah.
Well, I think he cares about being popular.
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
cares about being popular. He can't do that if he
Yeah.
wants to actually get. Watch this guy support Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All bill that was just put forth.
Yeah,
in the
I
House.
just saw that. That'd be very interesting because I heard the Paul Ryan plan was just kind of they knew that it would fail and they let Paul Ryan just hang.
Well, I mean, it looks like Trump wanted it to pass. It looks like Bannon
Yeah.
was.
They were all for it.
bullying.
It's that Tea Party that didn't.
Yeah, it was the Tea Party,
Party-
that saved the
Yeah,
country.
it was
Yeah.
the Freedom Caucus that was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, I don't buy into that thing where they just wanted. They really needed this thing to pass. I don't think.
but it's just crazy. They've been trying to like
Do this for
doesn't
7
matter. How
years.
can they be so incompetent? You know, like you had so
7
much
years.
time to solve a
Because
problem. You
it's
should have at least something great. Like
they've never had
put a
it.
fucking intern on it.
Dude,
Well-
to me, it seemed like they just wanted to repel the Obama plan, but they had no alternative. Like,
They
what do you
didn't.
do now?
So-
Yeah, but it's like an
no.
episode of
All they
South
wanted-
Park or something.
No, all they wanted to do was take it away completely, but then they would lose their base because the people
They're all
did,
on Medicare.
yeah, they did.
Exactly.
They benefited from it. Like people that were going to like the town hall meeting saying that I would die if you take this plan away. You know, there
A
was
majority
Exactly.
of Trump supporters didn't support the bill. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
once you give people something, it's really hard to take it away, and especially healthcare, especially the right
So-
to live in a way.
So what the Tea Party didn't like is that they were taking it away, but they were still leaving entitlement programs in there. So they were not for that, and they didn't want to, pave in.
And I want to be clear to the poor Tea Party people. The Trump administration, everybody thought you guys were so fucking dumb that you
Yeah.
were going to accept anything they gave
Yeah,
to you. So I
yeah.
want
To their
Yeah.
credit.
for
Exactly, that's true.
so you guys just so you know what Trump thinks about you because
Yeah.
Tea Party people really support Trump.
Yeah, they
and,
do.
And part of the
And-
reason
And I think it was Bill Maher that was making fun of it yesterday. Like
you gotta
like
meet
all
me
the
halfway.
shit, yeah,
Stop being stupid.
all the shit they took away, and they were saying nope, even that's not enough. Like like taking emergency rooms or
Visits,
hospital
yeah.
stays. Like they took almost everything out besides I think what's that if pre
Just pre-existing conditions.
conditions and being your parents' thing for 26 and some other minor things, but that was pretty damn interesting that
I
they.
mean, you gotta just read. Oh, I haven't read it, but from what I've heard from people that have read it, is that Trump's own book is about how do you con people and how do you get them
Talking
to
about the
believe
art of the deal, right? But
the
he
art of
didn't.
the deal. How do you get them to believe something until just the moment where they stop believing?
If I'm
so you
not
gotta
wrong,
stop bullshitting.
He didn't write that book. He just hired someone to write his ideas.
Right.
So if you want to look that up, like the Art of the Deal was majority written by someone else, and then it was his name used to sell that concept. Like,
But he is following that. Doesn't
Yeah.
it seem like it? Like it's the art of
He
bullshitting.
tried. He tried
Yeah.
it with the Freedom Caucus and that
Yeah.
failed.
Tony Schwartz
He
wrote it.
became
Yeah.
president following that. Because you
Oh.
had a majority of the not majority, but a pretty
Well, some-
amount of people that went and voted.
well, some can say with the Russians thing with hacking the DNC emails also played
Okay,
a
because
role.
he didn't really make a deal with the people. He just said, "I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to."
And
do
he
this
is
for you,
not
I'm
doing
gonna do
anything.
this
He's
for you,
doing
I'm gonna do
everything
this for you."
opposite.
But the people thought he was making a deal.
Right. Well,
That,
no, the
yeah,
people
he's gonna
thought
do it.
the people thought he would be able to make a deal with the people. Like,
Yeah.
and of course, and they're trying to 3D chess it, I guess, by saying, "Oh, Trump,
4D test.
Trump, what do you call it?
Who's
Come
that talking from back there from
Yeah.
the
That's
couch?
scary, man.
Sorry, it's just they call it 4D test.
You're like an
Oh
echo.
yeah. It's the 4D chess of Trump. Yes, he purposely lied, and he purposely wanted the bill to fail so that he can now. I have no idea. I don't know what
Yeah.
the next step is in this 4D chess, but apparently,
Well, they say that basically he wanted Paul Ryan to get what he wanted. Let him fail.
according to the
And
Trumpsters,
they want Paul Ryan out.
right?
Actually.
Yeah, they want Paul Ryan out, and somehow by weakening the GOP, this somehow strengthens Trump.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's right, but that's what they think.
Maybe Paul Ryan's going against what Trump wants done. You
Well,
know?
They-
Ryan has his own. Well,
You
okay,
guys
we
own
got to
the agenda.
remember Ryan was the vice presidential candidate to Romney,
Yeah.
who was the original person who passed Obamacare in his state. It was
Yeah.
called Romney Care. Romney Care, or the Affordable Healthcare Act, was written originally by the Heritage Foundation, which is a right wing think tank.
Yeah.
So we got to remember that it wasn't just that a lot of the right wing says, oh, they forced Obama down our throat. No, we
It came
tried
from Romney.
to get single payer health care passed. We couldn't,
So we
compromised with the Affordable Health Care Act
Yeah.
with the Republicans, and that's how it got passed.
yeah.
So all this bullshit about, oh, we want to get rid of Obamacare, the reason that they don't have anything is because what they came up with was Obamacare.
It's
Yeah.
so funny. Like, once you learn all these facts, though, you're like, what the fuck are we talking about? What is this bullshit? Like, once you put all those facts together, we're just like
So-
chasing our own tail, man.
It's just childish.
So Ryan was putting forth what the Freedom Caucus correctly described was a light version of Obamacare.
Yeah.
Because they wanted essentially the same Heritage Foundation plan that they wrote, but with even less coverage.
Yeah.
Which is...
So what's the point of having it, right? Like their way of covering is like just bullshit.
It's,
in a
it's
sense.
yeah, it's they don't seem to care.
You know, I
So-
gotta go back to the system.
ahead.
It always seems to me that has to be something wrong with the system because the system allowed all of this.
Well, the system is made up by the collective virtue that
Yeah.
the people have. Now, I want to go back to now Socrates, since we're going to go back to shit. If we go back to
Go all the way
ancient
back.
times,
Let's start all
Plato literally said that the republic's strength relies on the virtue of its citizens.
I just want to stop here for a second because so the difference between me, Z, and like Ali is they're more into futurist ideas, so basically post-human ideas. And since we're getting so close to that, because I feel like a lot of the discussions we're having are based on humans staying the same and humans still controlling everything. But you know how you talk about computers controlling or us becoming androids and just having a different level of like virtue and consciousness. So I guess I was just thinking about maybe the problem is just us. And the future is like we're talking about the future based on how we are now, but maybe we're about to change too.
It's very possible.
Yeah, I think about it like, is it just human nature? Because to me, it seems like democracy. Yeah, we say that it's the virtue of the people, but is it really? Is it?
I believe so.
Because-
I think we're at Trump consciousness. I mean,
But okay, so
even
now
my
when-
best liberal friends were all fist bumping to Jersey Shore,
Sure.
and I believe that was a huge reason why Trump is in power. I mean, if you party every day from 2009 to 2016, you're going to get a fascist in power. Like that's
Sure.
I know so many smart people that do not give a fuck at 5. They're like, oh shit, I could be threatened by all this? Because it's so easy not to care about politics, you know? It's
Sure.
so boring.
It's
so
actually
retarded.
cool. It's
Yeah,
actually
cool.
really cool to be like, oh my God, Armand, you're taking this so seriously.
Yeah.
You know, who really cares if Bernie wins? And it's like, I guess we're gonna find out.
It's only
Yeah,
a small
as
deal
soon as
now.
it affects you, that's when you know, right?
Dude, right now we have like freedom of movement, freedom of speech. Once these things start getting taken away even a little bit, man, people are going to freak the fuck out. And they're not going to know what the hell is happening.
I'm wondering if they will freak the fuck out, or would it be so little by little that they wouldn't know, and then one day will be like,
Actually,
what the hell just
that-
happened?
Yeah,
This is
that
why
might be a good point too.
When
actually.
did it
That's-
all change, you know?
you might be right,
Well, this
actually.
is why the Republicans and the Koch brothers are pissed, because Trump is moving everything too fast.
Extremely fast. There's so much shit.
Oh,
The
that's a good point.
The
yeah.
Muslim ban could have been done so expertly well under a Clinton administration, and none of us would have cared.
Scared,
Yeah, that's so true. That's what I'm saying. If we had Clinton, we'd be in a daze.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Clinton probably would have rolled out the Muslim ban maybe
he's-
a year or two into it.
He's trying to do every shit like in the first 100 days, like you
Because
said.
liberal democracy was
Yeah.
trying to
He's being too honest.
was trying to take away all our rights and was trying to do all that stuff little by little so we don't notice it. That's what the plan was. But
And then since it's happening so slowly, we just get accustomed and used to it that we don't
yeah, okay.
question
Patriot
it.
Act gets passed in 2003.
Yeah, how did that
Then the
happen?
NDAA gets passed in 2009-ish, which is by Obama. Then the regulation on net neutrality and all that crap is being stripped
Yeah.
away. Slowly by slowly, they take
they
away
passed that
things.
away, right? The net neutrality
Oh,
law.
we won that. We won that up until now
I
because they're
think we
bringing
just-
it back. They're
yeah.
bringing it back now.
I
that
think
the
they already
F-
passed a law where they're getting rid of it, right? Or-
I'm not sure. I hope not.
I
That's
think they
not
already
something
did.
I've
Can
heard.
you? I think they just passed a law. Where
I heard. I think it's something out of committee or something. I don't know if they
Yeah, I heard it's
passed a
coming
law.
back, but not that it's like implemented.
If
yet.
they've passed a law, then we're all fucked because that's.
No, I think they already passed it. You want to look at it?
Yeah, go ahead. I mean,
Net neutrality law.
because I know that.
Because I remember reading something where they said Congress just it was up for a vote or something. They already passed it. I could be wrong, but
It almost reminds you of like a Sigmund,
news.
because I've been reading like engineering consent, and there's this whole method which is by Sigmund Freud, and it's like where you create the
There it is.
atmosphere for somebody to want something
So
without
February-
actually wanting it.
February 3rd, new U.S. net neutrality law coming within 3 months. That's what I thought, because there's no way one passed without
but
an
most
entire riot.
most likely it is gonna pass. I think because they
Dude, I
have
was just
the
thinking, if I was them, I would try it once. We get really mad. They try it twice. We get really mad. Eventually, we'll just get bored and they'll pass it
yeah
through.
yeah that's exactly
Well,
what
that
it
was
is.
the.
We're gonna use all of our energy on the first 2 times.
Yeah.
Third time, it'll go through.
If they do this will be like the 10th time they try, though.
Mhm.
Already, we're already at number 10. This
Oh,
is,
okay.
They've been doing this since 2003 to try to roll back. I mean, the internet came about because a lot of rich people thought they were going to be able to make money.
Yeah.
The internet. The only reason the internet came from the military to the public sphere was because Amazon and they thought they could move
Oh.
more products
Yeah, money.
through the internet. They didn't really think that we were going to be able to use it to spread information.
Who's they?
I guess whoever allowed this crap. I mean, for example,
okay.
for example,
I'm always like, who is they? No,
Various different
Yeah,
Illuminati
I'm-
groups.
yeah.
for this one, I'll say they was the power structure in place today that is actually trying
Oh, okay.
to remove it. So they exist. There's clearly a group of people in.
like the rich people that have
Congress.
gone through all this. They've like watched. They've always had the money, and they've watched this thing like just grow into this beast.
But we're very lucky that so many billionaires were created from the .com bubbles and because now
They're liberal. Most of them.
I mean, one of the reasons we didn't go into Syria when Obama wanted to, and one of the reasons we didn't get rid of net neutrality 10 years ago was because the internet shut down on a few occasions in protest.
Yeah.
So that happened. That we're going to shut down. SOPA, SOPA came out, and I believe Wikipedia, everybody,
The blackout.
They blacked out.
they
Yeah.
blacked
It
out.
was,
And,
it was led by Aaron Shorts.
right, and so there's a lot of
I might be heading out early.
yeah.
I think we
it's
were about to
actually
wrap
late.
it up. Yeah.
Heading
We're
out early.
approaching
No, I mean, just,
Yeah,
you guys want
time.
to keep going. I didn't want to.
No, we're approaching a 3rd hour mark.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
You know, this whole idea that it's really fascinating of doing things little by little so the general public doesn't see it. Now, Sigmund Freud, I believe, I might be getting it mixed up, but his idea of how you get people to believe something is not by telling them, hey, if you want tobacco to take off, hey, guys, smoke, or have these marketing campaigns, but you create this atmosphere where people want to use tobacco. So what he did was get like all these Hollywood actors to use smoking in a very sexy way. He never told people like, hey guys, you should smoke, and there was no advertising, but it was creating this atmosphere.
Yeah, it's called I mean, it was basically propaganda.
Propaganda, exactly.
I mean,
Great propaganda is, I think, what they call
they
it.
staged a female. I mean, because there was a female protest. I mean, women's suffrage was a big deal back in like when cigarettes were coming around. We're talking pre-World War I, and one of the staged protests for women to show their manliness was to take off their jackets and smoke a cigarette, and that was all done by the tobacco companies to try to make smoking some type of norm and as a expression of power for women.
Attractive, too.
Yeah, and it's sexy, like he said. It's like, oh, women do it.
So like, I guess our closing comments would be like, oh, how can we change this, and how can individual people listening, what can we do? If we don't like what we see, a lot of us stay idle, right? And don't want to be.
Z had it. I mean, I think you got to listen to people and stop trying to tell them what they need to think. I think you just got to question people. Again, this is ancient shit. This is Socrates.
Yeah.
He said you can't teach anybody anything. He says you got to just constantly cross-examine their own ideas until they realize what they're saying doesn't make sense.
That's right. So like, we need to. Yeah, clashing of ideas is the best thing for us, right? Because we're supposed to take the best idea forward. So there's being the bigger man too, and letting the ego come down, not trying to win an argument, but also, I guess, come out better as a whole, if you will. Like like sometimes we let our egos come in play. So once we're trying to argue for something,
Well, like what's the real consequence of losing an argument, as opposed to say gaining a friend? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, say somebody is really dumb, let's just say, and they just cannot listen to you. Would it be better to like go all out and just show everybody in the crowd how dumb this person is,
Right.
or would it be better to just talk to this person,
Yeah.
become their friend, and over the next 2-3 years, rub off on them, and then they become more tolerant of your ideas.
But
Yeah.
see, that's difficult. That takes time. That's why
Oh, of
people
course.
That's the
aren't.
long con.
That's why people aren't willing to do it. It's harder to understand the other side than it is to just attack them. It's quicker,
Well, it's
and most
pride.
people don't have the patience to do that.
And in the day we live in, we have no attention span whatsoever.
Yeah.
Anyways, anything that takes more than 5 seconds to go to space and come back is too long.
Because where kind of liberals are heading right now, the extreme liberalism is kind of scary too, where they just get outraged about everything, and like no
Well,
one's
that's
able to.
also not liberalism, right?
Yeah.
If you're saying that you can't say this and you can't say that because
That's not right.
that's not actually by definition
Yeah.
liberalism.
Yeah.
They just
And-
call themselves
and-
liberals.
Yeah, and that's a problem too, right? We don't want that to become the norm or that to become acceptable.
We
right?
gotta give them a new name.
No, I would like to hear all the racist people speak. I would like for PC culture to
Yeah.
die. I don't think that's helpful. I mean, if I teach a bunch of people how to act not racist,
Yeah.
does that kill racism?
I think Sam Harris
No.
is like the best at this. He's like, there's only two ways to change people's minds. One is by talking to them, and one is by war. So there's really like free speech is so important.
Yeah.
Having a conversation is like it sounds really like new agey I guess nowadays, but it's so important, man, just to have a conversation about shit.
Yeah, and to even add to that, I think especially in our own lives, the best way you can change someone else is to change how you're reacting to them. Because
Yeah.
Change yourself first.
Because like
Change-
for example, if your mom and you and your mom argue about, let's say, homework every day, she's never gonna not argue with you about that. You could eventually judo, use her energy positively, but you could never convince her that homework is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Just like you can't convince Republicans or specifically Trump supporters that Trump is not only is he a bad guy, he's probably a treasonous person coming from Russia. So that's not something you're going to win. So instead of that, you got to go with, well, what do you believe liberalism really is? You got to question. It's because you seem to hate it. What do you think it really is?
They hate liberals right now.
Yeah, and when they say something like that, oh, it's being offended and it's being this, well, you explain to them, no, well, here's the not here's the Wikipedia article, but
Right.
here's at least what I think it is. And in my situation, and I get into political conversations with conservative all the time, they will listen.
Yeah.
As long as you don't, ha ha ha, you believe that? Oh my God, what
Yeah.
an idiot! And that's how liberals talk to conservatives.
You
and
just
it's
trash
bullshit.
them. Yeah, you just
And
trash
it's
them.
fucking bullshit. They laugh. Like even Bill Maher, I love him to death, but he comes off as the most smuggest,
Yeah.
left wing.
Yeah.
But that's his job. In
And,
his
and
fairness,
that's when he's high.
Yeah.
And I think with like Bill Maher, he's been doing it for so long. Because I mean, it's a tough balance. You can get to a point where you're so understanding. Because I've been there. You can be so understanding that you forget what you stand for.
Right.
So you've got to. It's a tough balance, and you've got to
And
really.
I feel like a lot of people that meditate all day and all this stuff, well, they don't actually engage in conversations that are like,
That's not worth it.
yeah, because they're gonna, for them it's like it's not worth it. I just want to stay positive all the time.
Yeah.
But to actually like engage in those conversations, you actually bring on a lot of negativity into your life.
Right.
Yeah.
So after you meditate and you have those profound thoughts and you grow as a person, I think it's important to kind of bring that out to the rest of society
You have
in
to
some
project,
way.
You have to project
Yeah.
your being. That's the last thing I want to say about, because I really, really love the ancient Greeks and Socrates and Plato and all of them. But Plato specifically created the first academy, the first educational institution, specifically not to educate people so that they could be smarter. He created so that we could compete with the celebrities. That's why he created it, because he said celebrities were giving glamour to flaws of character. And that has to stop. And we have to create a new breed of what he called guardians, people who constantly make it their life to express excellence of being, aka virtue, and have people go, oh, that's who I want to be.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
And that's why when people said, oh, it doesn't matter who's president, Trump or Clinton, I was like, oh, yes, it does. Because, yeah, maybe they don't do anything. Maybe they have actually no power. And maybe, yeah, they're corrupt and backward and full of shit. But it matters who the symbol is.
Yeah.
It matters who the
That's why
symbol
Obama
is.
was kind of awesome as a
He raised a lot of good
yeah.
kids
Yeah.
who now, yeah, maybe it's fake. Maybe Obama droned. And the kids don't know that. They just
Yeah.
saw an elegant, upright person speaking
who came from poverty,
Eloquently.
from one mother, or
who
from a
graduated
single
from
parent.
Harvard
Yeah.
and who did everything the right way, versus now Trump. What are the kids going to think when they see
Yeah,
this?
it's
I
a
was
bad
12.
symbol, a bad role
If I
model.
was 12 and I looked at Trump, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go grab pussies too. And I'm
Yeah.
going to go.
It's normal.
If I was 12, I remember how I was when I was
Yeah.
Trump when I was 12. I know how I was when I was 12. I
Yeah.
was that. I was that person. I thought, you know,
because he represents us as a country. So what do other neighbor countries think of us? You know, it's just not,
that's a whole other issue.
Yeah,
But I'm very concerned specifically about how children are interpreting
this.
this president
Yeah.
because they think that's normal,
Yeah,
and there's no way to convince them that it's not.
and they're gonna be the future generation, right? So,
So
like,
what we got to do is, people say, oh, the liberals are crazy about the Russians. No, it needs to be constantly put in the news feed that this man is illegitimate, that this is
Yeah.
not normal, that this is not
yeah,
how things have been done.
something is gonna come to light pretty soon. So
And
we'll
something's
see.
going to give. Either the president will be impeached or we'll be living in some 21st century fascist environment. And
Yeah.
I really don't see that happening because as of literally yesterday when I read the story about Bannon bullying the Freedom Caucus and then it resulting in nothing,
Yeah,
and then Bannon was originally just trying to get Sessions to run. This looks like a very loose, shitty operation that no one thought they were going to win and no one really has any idea what they're doing. So,
Yeah.
And honestly, if they really did want a fascist takeover, would they really make enemies of the intelligence community, the Department of Homeland Security, the military?
Yeah.
They made enemies out of everybody. So,
it's just so chaotic. Like it's just a joke at this point.
I think we all need to calm down a little bit, and in order to move us
Be
into the future,
optimistic.
learn to let go too. I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, let go." What about all the horrible things going on? Trust me, you can't deal with them unless you let go.
Yeah,
You know, you can't raise your kid, for example, if you're constantly hugging them
yeah,
and
There's-
never want to let them go.
yeah.
They're
There's a
never.
point
They're
where you
just
need
going to become another you.
yeah,
And not only that,
Yeah.
that's the best case scenario. They're actually going to a copy of a copy is usually less successful than the original.
yeah.
So, I guess I mean,
Let's
positive interactions with children, making sure they understand that it's not
And just
regular.
let go.
Passing information to other people. Yeah, let go. Passing other information like, hey, get high.
Yeah.
Get in touch with
And
your
be
senses.
involved too. I think we can all do our in parts, getting
You
involved
guys
some
are doing
way.
your
Yeah,
part,
yeah. So some shape or form, people can get involved in whatever way they can add value to this. Progression, making the society better, making
I think you guys are doing an excellent job. I mean, I hope you guys get more serious. I mean, you guys are clearly
Yeah.
very serious. You got all this equipment, got a studio, and all this
Yeah.
stuff. But
Yeah.
there's no limit to how serious you can get.
Yeah.
So
Of course,
No.
there's
Thank you.
At the end of the day, for me, when I kind of look at the bigger picture, or at least I think I'm looking at the bigger picture, it seems like it's a war of ideas. And
it is.
at the end of the day, we've got to believe there are good and bad ideas. And no matter how understanding you can be of the other side, and you've got to listen,
Right.
you've still got to promote the good ideas. And you've got to call out the people that have the bad ideas.
That's what Bill
course.
Maher does. He's like, well, so all the I know people don't want me to call you stupid, but meet me halfway. And Scott is stupid. You know? Yeah. So.
yeah.
I mean, it's like to anybody who felt offended by anything I said too, because I know there's conservatives and probably maybe some of my family members might listen to this who are conservative. I mean, it's not that we think you're stupid; it's that you gotta pay more attention.
Yeah.
Because you cannot now
It's-
deny.
It's all knowledge at the end of the day, right? The more information you have, the more knowledge you have, then
Better decisions you can make.
better decision. I guess you will always go towards a better decision. So
and
like,
it's undeniable
yeah.
that the man did not pass the Health Care Act on the first day, and it wasn't cheaper, and it wasn't better,
yeah,
and you got lied to, and that's
Yeah.
it. And you got to accept it and man up, and that's how you grow.
I just love how he used to say we're gonna get tired. You're gonna get tired of winning so much, and now everyone's like, oh man, he must be so tired of winning.
Well,
But yeah, because everything has not gone his way, so we'll see what happens.
yeah,
But-
I hope it's gonna be. I have hope. Like I said, I think Clinton might have put us all in a lull. Trump maybe
Yeah.
woke us up, and maybe we'll actually have in the way John Locke intended, a liberal democracy that does, in the communist sense, even though it's not communist, it's liberal, that everyone has the right to life,
Yeah.
liberty, and not just the pursuit of happiness, but also some property. Which
Absolutely.
with automation coming in, and I don't want to get into another topic, but with robots and coming, we're gonna have to figure out.
Oh, we can keep going on with that one.
We're gonna have to figure out
Yeah,
how to give people some type of basic income.
absolutely. When it goes that route,
So maybe another time we can talk
It's-
about.
Yeah.
It's going that
Definitely.
route.
Sure.
It's already there. So that's the whole
Z's
idea.
go now.
We got to start thinking right now.
please.
In this podcast.
Last thing, I would like to say is because I know what the nature of this whole Trump era and Trump nation, we've kind of started fighting amongst ourselves too, right? So you can see it's kind of weird culture at work, everyone's just so reserved to talk about, Trump, because they don't know who's a conservative, who's a liberal. Like, are you gonna offend someone? Are you gonna lose your job for saying something? Are you gonna lose your friends for being vocal? Like, it's just,
if you're afraid fascism is coming to America and you're still scared to talk in public about
your
Trump
opinion,
because you're going to
yeah.
lose your job,
Yeah.
unless you have like 5 kids depending on you or something,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, then you deserve the fascism that's coming.
right.
Exactly.
No,
You know, like that's. I'm sorry, I don't know what else.
but
to
like with the whole PC culture and culture and work has kind of changed too, right?
Totally
So like,
agree,
anytime something happens in the news, everyone like in the morning media is so reserved to say anything
You
about
gotta
it.
stop being
Yeah,
reserved. You gotta
yeah.
let go. You gotta let go of the need to be liked
but
by everybody. You gotta
yeah.
let go of the need to be even right. It's good to be wrong in a conversation. You gotta be wrong,
Right.
So that somebody can say, "Hey,
But there's
That's
also
wrong.
So
has
you can learn from
Right,
that,
right.
and you gotta be able to admit to yourself and be like, okay, I was wrong, and not let
the
your
first
ego get
time
in the
I
way.
admitted I was wrong, and then I like accepted it because it's very embarrassing.
Yeah.
To admit you're wrong, and especially in a conversation, I felt that feeling of letting go. I felt that vindication.
yeah.
And then I was like, wait a minute, it doesn't hurt
Yeah,
to be
it doesn't.
wrong.
And you
It's-
grew
it's-
from that. You were able to learn
It's a
from
humble
that, right?
experience, right?
Yeah,
And I notice adults can't seem to do this.
Yeah.
It's not in their character
because
set.
they're not adults yet. We call them adults, but they're really still children in an
Yeah.
adult body. Really,
It's-
that's what Trump is. Really,
And I don't know, like, if you guys notice it, but like, just us being vocal with our podcast and stuff that we're talking about, it's weird how people are, right? So they don't like your ideas, they can unfriend you on Facebook, or if you're too anti-Trump or too pro-Trump, you can lose friends. And those people that are like that, you're just putting yourself in an even deeper bubble, right? Because you're not listening to other ideas and you're so afraid
the
of them.
echo chamber.
Yeah, you're trying to just take that knob and turn everything off, and you just only want to hear what you want to hear.
Yeah, I follow everything.
Yeah, you should. So like, I just want to encourage everyone to listen to both sides, and that's the only that's the only way we're gonna honestly
I
move
never
forward.
understood the whole I like when you see something you don't like on your Facebook feed, it takes -1 calorie to move past
Yeah.
that post. You know what I'm saying? So I never understood that whole issue, but I really want to encourage, especially liberals, you have to start liking and following those conservative blogs. I mean, you have to know what they're saying.
Yeah. So otherwise, how are we gonna solve it if we don't know?
Well, you at least,
Yeah.
I mean, even if you're a person who doesn't give a shit about empathizing with the other side, you still logistically should know what you're about to argue about and what they're gonna say. So follow their sources.
Yeah.
yeah, especially
See-
because liberalism is supposed to be globalist, right? So that means you encompass everything, and we're Earth is one planet. We're not segmented. We can't be
We're all in this
half a
together.
planet going this way and half a planet. We got to move together,
Yeah.
whichever way we're going. Or maybe we can. I don't know. We've talked about there not being a utopia,
but we should still aim for it. Though.
but we should try for
Yeah.
it. Yes, of course.
I think, and the way to do that is as against now we keep circling around this idea, but you have to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
I think if we collectively take care of ourselves, this show gets better. And if we collectively take care of our neighborhood, that neighborhood gets better.
Yeah.
And if we collectively take care of ourselves as a country, the country will get better. I mean, this is not my idea. This is like what Gandhi. This is what
Yeah.
Martin Luther King. This is what they marched on. They said if the collective virtue and let's take a simple virtue, courage.
Yeah.
If we could all, for example, raise our courage and show up to these marches or show up to a
Yeah.
congressman's.
That's
meet
all
and
it
greet,
takes, man. Like,
and put them under fire and say, hey, what are you doing about this? Or
yeah, Hasban's not here, but like he always says something cool. Like, at what point are you willing to sacrifice? Like, at what point you see everything's kind of going to shit, right? So at what point are you gonna get up and go on march? At what point are you gonna go sacrifice some of
it's
your own
really
security?
now. It's really not. I mean, you
Yeah,
guys are
this
doing
is
the show.
this is the time, right? So
Because if you don't do it right now, you can't. Like, to me, I think like I'm not doing enough, but if I don't do anything at all, I can't wake up one day and be like, man, everything's gone to shit. Then I don't have
You
a right
play-
to
you say-
criticize.
you played a role
or
in it.
Be like, hey, what's going on? Why is it like this?
yeah,
I don't have the right anymore.
yeah, you played a
Well,
role.
If
in
I was
stuff.
asleep the whole
You
time.
can't fold. We all
Yeah.
have a hand, and it may not be the best hand.
you
but
gotta play it though.
if you fold, it's over right then and there. And especially when you wake up 20 years from now and the world is to shit. And I can't imagine living till I'm 60 knowing I could have did something.
Yeah,
Especially when I can. I mean, I don't know if Hasban told you, but I own a record label that we do EDM music and rap music. But I
how
also
is there a way our listeners, if they want to reach?
yeah, it's the FTC.org.
Okay,
We have all our clients and all the. I mean, we don't just do musicians either. We have branding. We do Hate Brand, which is Chance the Rapper's merchandising
Nice.
organization. So we help with that. We I also, and I love the FTC, and that's a lot of work, but I also do a lot of work for the Future Left, which is a futurist organization who's asking the same question. Well, how does liberalism, and not even liberalism, but the unity between the liberals and the socialists and the communists, because, you know, we're all on the left, how can we come together and make sure something like Trump never happens again, basically? And a lot of the Future Left's mandate is to criticize protesting.
Why?
Because it's ineffective. You got a bunch of people blocking traffic, and the news report is someone died in an ambulance who was trying to get through. What does that look like for the protesters? This happens a lot.
Yeah.
And this happens pretty frequently. So there's a lot of things me and the Future Left work on. The FTC is for music and trying to get the culture of Chicago together.
So someone wanted to get involved in the Future Left. How do they find that?
The Future Left is the name of it on Facebook. The FTC is the name of it on Facebook as well. The futureleft.xyz and the FTC.org. And they're just my projects and trying to do what you said, connect people.
Yeah.
But not just politically, but also artistically. And also, Future Left is theoretical politics. So it's not just getting involved with the marijuana bill that's happening now. It's also about, well, what do these ideas mean once we connect it with transhumanism?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's liberalism look like when there is no scarcity?
Oh, that's great,
how do
man.
free markets operate when we can grow meat?
Right.
You know, like how does this? So that's what we're focusing on. We're still growing it. FTC is more established, and the congressman guy. The one running for Congress. He's not a congressman yet. Benjamin Thomas Wolf. That's literally, I just started that 2 days ago.
Okay.
So to be honest, to him and to the whole organization, if I find out that, you know, he's not real,
Yeah.
then I'm leaving, you know. But that's
At the moment,
it
seen,
seems very, very,
promising.
very promising. So
that's great to hear.
So yeah, that's my answer to how we move into the future. Just talk about things, be compassionate towards the ignorant, and let go. Because if you constantly, look what the Republicans did, and look what my mom did, and look what, you're never gonna, you're constantly clenched, and you're like the baby crying. You know, you're just clenched.
Absolutely. No, we're all you offer some great insights and philosophical insights too that I thought were kind of profound experiences for me, and I'm sure our listeners will find it useful too. So I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks a lot for saying that.
Yeah.
It means a lot.
Yeah, you know, in the end, you started talking about those post-human kind of ideas, and I hope we can have you back so we can talk about that further one time. And, you know, in this podcast, like Ali said, I learned a lot. I did a lot of listening, and it was fascinating. So
thank you.
I want to thank you, Armand, for
Amazing.
coming on. It was fantastic.
Thanks a lot, guys. I'm glad this is happening. I'm glad that, that there's a Mind High podcast, and that, you know, I hope it grows, and I hope that you know, we influence other people, not to get high, but to
I mean, to be
That too.
To be quite honest with you, like when we named it Mind High, like for me, it wasn't about actually getting high. It was just getting high on ideas.
Right. That's what you said when we first opened, and I know that too, because when I first looked at your videos, it wasn't about taking drugs. It was about beliefs and, you know, what simple topics are.
Yeah, absolutely. Just get high on ideas and clash on ideas.
But yeah, I'll definitely be happy to come back in the future.
Oh, for sure, it was a pleasure.
Tomorrow.
So to our listeners listening, you know, please check us out on Facebook, like our page, also subscribe to our YouTube page. We have a lot of cool videos that we're releasing we're doing it every Tuesday, but we're thinking about changing that to Wednesday, depending on how this week's goes. But if you haven't checked that out, please do so. We have pretty cool content there. And as always, thank you for listening and tune back in.
Thanks, guys. Peace
Thank
out.
you. Take care.